Wednesday evening. Check it out, folks. Dig it. Election night 2020. May the best contestant who is favored by the winner needs to go. Here we go.
How Michigan and the presidential race fares there could affect that Senate race very closely. Look, let's just come to a second. Before Gardner losing to John Hickenlooper, Chris, Gardner was one of the
Carolina. The question is, will the rural vote be enough to carry Donald Trump over the top in North Carolina? And we'll have to wait and see that. That has not come in yet.
Can I say something about the polls, though? Because, and Andy Economist was here, too, and so was Logan, and I want everybody to comment on this, because the polls, as of today, had Joe Biden up in Florida by 4%. Okay, so you know what you're talking about? That he would have been up by the equivalent of about 500,000 votes. Now, this is how off they are. If the panhandle comes in, as I expect the panhandle will come in, and goes, 70%, 80% to the president, Andy, could be up 700,000.
That's exactly right, Jay. We've got to realize that the panhandle of Florida, which is essentially South Alabama and Southwest Georgia extended, is deep red, highly conservative, very traditional in values, just as the president has. And those votes that are going to be there are going to make the pollsters look very foolish, because instead of Biden being ahead by 600,000 votes, the president is going to.
Which, Logan, means that they were off by it could be off by 1 million votes.
Right, I think we have to start rethinking how polling even works, or even how it happens, because clearly, regardless of how the election goes, we know that the polling is so off. You already saw sort of the end of exit polling. You see the end of all of these traditional ways. At this point, all bets are off, and I think we have to really reevaluate going forward how these polls are interpreted and how much stock we put in them, because of how they could affect the election. Because people see the polls, and they decide whether to vote, not vote, how to vote. And in Florida, it could be a big swing one way.
Right now, the president's up by 311,000 votes in Florida, Fan. I suspect that when the panhandles, now they closed an hour later, everybody. So, and Florida, by the way, was not on my list of potential litigation sites. I was not really concerned about Florida. Anyways, I thought the president was going to win. I thought he'd win by 3 or 4%. I've been saying that, for days. But then I look at it now, and the president's up by 311. That could become easily 611. Which means the polls would have been off 1 million votes in one state.
Yeah, and it might not have been on your list of states to litigate, Jay, but it's certainly on the top 5 list of states that are going to decide this election. Yeah. And this is not just an early win for the president. This is a resounding early win for the president. I really think the network should have called it by now. But just to echo Logan's point, look, we should have learned this lesson in 2016, and some of us did. Traditional polling doesn't work anymore. People don't answer the phone when they don't know the number that it's coming from. You've got to look at the energy on the ground, and I think Florida's the first indication that was the best indication of how this election is going to go as well. This is a big win, Jay. One of the top 5 states off the map immediately in the column of the president.
Jordan, let's talk about Ohio, though, because Ohio voting is coming in, and there's been some concern there, but it's very early right now. What is the percentage in Ohio, Will? Can you get that? Just get that data. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio is a very important state for the president. This is a state he carried before. When you look back, he carried it pretty big. Right now, he is trailing. They're going through different counties in Ohio right now. So I'm trying to look at the state number. There's 53% reporting. That is not enough to figure it out with it when it's a place that you usually win by 1 or 2%. The president was looking good in Ohio.
Yeah.
Right now, it's Biden 53, Trump 46 with 53% in. So very much up in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still like, this is, again, you get cities you either get one of two things. Either the cities report first because they've got kind of like the tech to do it, and then the rural areas take a little longer. And, of course, rural areas are going to favor President Trump and Republicans.
Early voting is counted first.
Right. So
remember that, everybody.
Biden has got a lead in every one of these states when they open up. In Georgia, he had the lead. In Florida, he had the lead. But then it started closing when you started counting actual votes today on Election Day. Just like what I said on today's earlier broadcast, President Trump will only win tonight
if he won the election day vote by a big number, if people turned out in big numbers. That is going to be the question. It's about 200,000 votes between him and Biden, and with 50% reporting in Ohio, that could go either way. Yeah, I think we're taking calls too. 1-800-684-3110. That's 1-800-684-3110. If you're in a state like Georgia, if you're in a state like Ohio,
North Carolina
especially, we want to get those calls right to the front of the line. Start seeing what you saw in your county, what you saw in your precinct, what you think is happening. Because right now, when you only get 50% reporting, and a lot of people voted by mail, and a lot of those people were Democrats, you cannot make a call. I mean, you look at the actual. We do look like.
I do not understand why they haven't made a call on Florida. However,
yeah, because the votes in Florida and the Panhandle have started to come in, and as foreseen, hundreds of thousands of votes now the lead for the president.
It was 311. What is it
I think it's just pretty much they've evened out. Just it's gone up. The percentage has gone up of reporting. So reporting has gone up again, minute by minute.
300 to 500,000. I think will be.
I think it's a pretty clear. I think it's a pretty clear win.
But what a polling miss. I mean, a complete polling miss. Now Georgia, the president started behind, but again, what was coming in? The early voting was coming in. That's what happened. Now, Andy, you're the one that's been in Georgia the most recent. What's your sense?
My sense is the president is going to win the state of Georgia, and I don't know why. If it were up to me, I would call it at this point because I know, but that's not the case. I think what has happened is something like Cobb County, which is really part of metropolitan Atlanta. Fulton County, I understand, which is part of metropolitan Atlanta, is late reporting. I don't know what the status of DeKalb County is, but I think that ultimately the president is going to carry the state of Georgia.
Let me ask our producer, Will Haynes, on North Carolina. The New York Times is running one of their meters. What is the call there?
Pulling up North Carolina right now, but I did want to bring up that in Georgia, the president is up 282,000 votes.
What percent in?
We are 93% reporting.
Okay.
So the president's going to win Georgia by 400,000 votes.
So to start the president's night,
so what did he need to do? Go ahead.
What did he need to do? He needed to win Florida. We're safe to say that he's won Florida.
I believe that. No question.
It looks like now he's won Georgia. So Georgia. Next up is North Carolina. Does he stay on the Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania march through to Ohio? That is the question. We do not know North Carolina yet. We don't know enough about Pennsylvania. It does look good for the president right now. And Ohio, we're only got 50% reporting. President's down, but again, 50% reporting. So what we're really going to look to next is probably North Carolina, these smaller states, to see exactly where things are coming in, how things are coming in, in some more rural areas, because there's still some major counties out in North Carolina.
Now, let me say this also on Ohio. I believe the president will carry it. I mean, we're going to have to see what the numbers come in. But if he did not, that's not the end of the pathway. It was assumed the president would win Ohio. It was not guaranteed that he would win Ohio. So if he does not win Ohio, obviously Pennsylvania, Arizona become very, very critical here. And we're going to stay with this. As long as you're watching and we got enough information coming in, we're going to stay with you on this. We encourage you to share this with your friends. You're going to get an analysis here that you're not going to get anywhere else. And we're not afraid to call it one way or another when we see data. Now, we're not going to make crazy predictions. It's going to be based on facts and evidence. Florida, which still has not been called by a network, is that correct? Incomprehensible to me that it has not been called by a network fan when the outstanding area, unless there's something I'm missing on an outstanding area, is the Panhandle of Florida. Walton County, Bay County.
I don't think there's anything you're missing, Jay. I think there's a couple of things at play here. One, Florida does scare some networks because of past elections. But two, look, if you call a state like Florida as early in the night as it does, it sends a message about the strength of the president. And look, I want to give you one more data point. You were talking about Georgia. It now looks an awful lot like Senator Perdue is going to get over the line without a runoff there. Now, the other one was always going to have a runoff, Jay, but that's an indication of the president's strength in Georgia as well. So you're right. Starting down there in the Sun Belt with the numbers coming out of Florida and Georgia, there's no other way to interpret that than a good start for the president. We're
not just trying to be positive here, though. We see a lot of positive numbers. In the Senate, we have lost one Republican. It is Cory Gardner in Colorado. It was expected, a very tough race for Cory Gardner. He's a great senator, but he had a former governor running against him in a state that Joe Biden won easily tonight. It was called right off the top, and Cory Gardner will not be returning to the U.S. Senate, so that is one Less for Republicans, but we have to see if there's going to be
Alabama's going to be it's going to go to
Alabama's a pickup. So right now it's still about the same, and we're going to look towards other states. Purdue not having to have a runoff, huge.
Yes. Now that means there probably
means
will be
Ossoff gone.
Yeah.
And that means the focus can then be on the other Georgia probably
which
runoff,
maybe means in a debate.
Which we don't know
call
who
somebody
that's,
a crook. Okay?
We don't know who that's.
Which is what Ossoff
We
did.
don't know yet enough numbers stand from that to know if it's Loeffler or Collins, do we?
No, we don't. And in fact, Jordan, all three of those candidates are close enough that there's still a chance it would actually be the two Republicans advancing. Now, I'm not predicting that. I think it's unlikely, but they
that
are
will tell you
a
that
lot
Donald Trump
closer
won,
than they were expected to
be.
be.
The fact that two Republicans might be in the runoff meant that President Trump has won Georgia. If
that also tells me get organized Republican Party a little bit better.
Yeah, but I mean it's okay. But also for the big picture of who's the president, if two Republicans won the runoff in Georgia, then President Trump won it. So where am I concerned right now? Where am I really focused in on?
Ohio.
We could go on the room. Ohio, North Carolina.
And Pennsylvania, of course.
Of course, Pennsylvania. But I think the ones we're watching
We're not
right
there
now,
yet. We're not there at Pennsylvania yet. Now, look, from Pennsylvania, listen, in my litigation radar, all right, on my scope of what I'm dealing with, I will tell you right now that I am concerned about, as a litigation point, we may have an issue in Pennsylvania. We have disputed ballots, I would call them. The court extended the date, which is the legislative authority. The legislature did not extend it. The court did it on its own. That means those ballots that came in are coming in today, well, really tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, under this extension method are supposed to be segregated. They weren't originally supposed to be counted. There's issues there. So we're watching from a legal standpoint. I am keeping a very close eye on Pennsylvania and to see what the margin looks like. Now, if the president wins by a big enough margin, that litigation will not be necessary. If the president didn't carry Pennsylvania, that litigation would not be necessary. And when I say carried it, the night of. We're going to have determinations on this. Go ahead, Logan. You got something.
Yeah, we will. No, we have some things. North Carolina, New York Times currently is reporting an 88% chance of winning for the president.
I'd like to know
so
what
that's a good number.
Doing how the
That's
senator's
interesting
doing.
Because the numbers don't look great. But
No,
I guess
Biden
it's
is
those
up.
counties
It's
that
the-
are
they know the
out
counties.
of Western North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina. So that's very good for the president. That's
Yeah, if New
continuing
York
on.
Times is doing that, that's probably a good thing.
what does
Also,
that
we can say
mean?
Newsmax actually has called Florida. So Newsmax.
Okay, good for them.
That's obviously I
friend
had Sean
Sean Spicer.
Spicer on the reprogram this
I'll
morning.
be on Newsmax tomorrow.
You're going to be on there tomorrow. So obviously our friends over at Newsmax.
How do you not? I still cannot figure out how they're not calling Florida.
ratings?
I guess.
What's New York Times say on Georgia? They have
I
that?
can pull that up. Give me just a second.
think
So,
they
but
have-
North Carolina is leading Republican. That's very, very good. What did you say the probability was, Logan? 80?
It was 88%.
I mean,
right
the
now.
president carries North Carolina.
And there's only a few counties left there, which means they're pretty certain.
So here's what happens. Now, it'll be interesting to see if Tillis can come. If the president can pull Tillis over
I
the finish
don't
line.
know about that.
He's about 2 percentage points down right now, Tom Tillis is.
Man,
Earlier
with
they're
the
saying-
conservative counties out.
Saying 81% in Georgia.
80
Probability.
81% that Trump
81%
wins.
that Trump will win, according to, again, the New York Times.
So this is he's in the 80+% of the New York Times. I bet he wasn't there 30 minutes ago either when the
Yeah,
first
this was
number.
updated 1 minute ago. So
Yeah.
this is a, this is
So,
a
but
brand
it's
new
interesting let's go back to North Carolina for a moment because Tillis, of course, Andy, we work with at the Senate on the impeachment. I'm wearing my impeachment watch, by the way. I figured this would be the day to do it. When we beat them on impeachment.
Yeah, I was about to say, you may want to clarify that.
Yeah, the acquittal watches, I should call it.
The acquittal watch.
That's a better term. I like that better.
The question would be whether the president can pull Tillis basically over the finish line.
Yeah,
here.
I think so. And I think the president does have long enough coattails. I think the president really helped David Perdue substantially, although Ossoff was a bad opponent, and that is not Georgia Ossoff. And I think that the president ultimately is going to pull Tom Tillis across the line when it comes to
In North Carolina.
In North Carolina, I do.
I think that's right. So back on Georgia, Logan, you said the New York Times is saying 80% chance.
Yeah, it was.
The New
over
York Times is saying an 80%
It was
chance.
an 81% chance just a couple
What
minutes
was the
ago.
differential?
I will have to pull that up.
Yeah, I'd
Just
like
give
to
me
know
one
what the
second. I did
differential-
want to
Interesting
say,
thing is
Go
that-
ahead.
if you're watching on Facebook right now, what I want to encourage you all to do is share. There are 15,000 plus watching live right now. Now share, because that obviously gets it into more people's feeds, and they get this sort of unfiltered
Yeah,
reporting
Periscope as well?
that we're giving
We're
here.
not taking
Also on
commercials.
Periscope and Twitter, retweet this right now. It really helps us out, and also gets the word out. You get a different point of view coming from us. Again, we're giving you our thoughts and feedback, and we're going to have great guests coming on.
one
We
right
got
now.
one right now. He's coming from the White House. Matt Schlapp, the chairman of the American Conservative Union, has been out on the campaign trail every day. He's joined us a number of times on our radio broadcast. Matt, let me just ask you, you've been a political director at the White House, so a top-level advisor to the president when it comes to politics. You've run one of the largest conservative political organizations in the country. what does it look like to you right now? I mean, for us, we see Florida, we see North Carolina, we see Georgia looking great. We all have a little bit of a question about Ohio and, of course, Pennsylvania in this early part of the night.
Yeah, I think the foundation's being laid quite nicely. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. I'm getting some independent readout because Jordan, I'm so old. I've been doing this so long. But anyway, some independent readout.
This is Jay, but go ahead.
Oh, Jay. Well, Jay, we're in the same neighborhood. But my readout is very strong in those states. Ohio, the city of Cleveland, overall between early vote and today is going to be down 13 points. So what you're seeing in these big cities is they didn't meet their early vote totals, and they're not as high as they were in 16 in a higher turnout election. So I remain confident in Pennsylvania and Ohio.
So Matt, if you remain confident though in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and we've gotten these early Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and what is next that people really need to be watching for from your perspective as you're watching it tonight? What are the next three states?
Arizona is obviously way west, but Arizona is the state that I think most people kvetch over. Republicans not holding on to. Obviously Jeff Flake and Cindy McCain did their thing, which was rather gross. But my readout with people I trust in the state could be narrow, but it looks very positive. Republicans had great turnout today, so Arizona should settle in nicely, even if it's narrow. Nevada has 135,000 fewer culinary workers in the city of Las Vegas. And that, socialist governor has really shut down that economy.
Yeah, he really has.
And I think keep watching Nevada. They opened up the polls. Adam Laxalt won a case out there where they're keeping the polls open longer in Clark County. Usually that's bad for us, but today it's good because today Republicans, conservatives, and Trump supporters vote.
It is different. Listen, part of this is you got to be flexible with this is just the nature of what it is. Matt, I want to talk for a moment here. So, obviously my eyes – from a legal standpoint, I'm focused a lot on Pennsylvania because I think if there's any shenanigans, Pennsylvania's the likely shenanigan state. We'll see. I think the president could pull it off with a big enough margin where it doesn't matter, but all eyes, from my eyes, are on Pennsylvania. I want to talk about Texas. I'm going to ask our producer to get me numbers on Texas and data on Texas because here's an interesting thing. The Democrats have said consistently, Matt, that they thought Georgia and Texas were possible flips. Now, it looks like Georgia is not, the president's up by hundreds of thousands of votes. So Georgia's doesn't appear to be in any risk of flipping. What's your sense on Texas? Was this a head fake from them, or did they think they could do it?
No, they always think they can do it. They'll get some polls, which are heavily weighted, obviously, in the big cities. And in Texas, one of the big aspects is how they're doing with minority voters. And I don't know if you and Jordan saw the exits out of Florida and out of Dade County, but it's up to 45% of Hispanics voting for Donald Trump in Florida. So what that means is that Texas Hispanics are also comfortable with voting Republican in high numbers. So my guess is that's going to mean that Texas is going to lay down nicely. And, look, I think in Texas, it's complicated because it has a lot of, new residents that are coming from all over as people flee socialism. That's right. And Illinois, and it's a low tax state. So everyone should always keep their eyes on Texas. It changes so much. It's almost like a new electorate every time, but we're going to win Texas.
Yeah, I feel good about Texas as well. We'll get some real numbers on Texas. Go ahead.
Yeah, Matt, I tweeted out earlier when I saw that how low the vote was coming in for Joe Biden, how he was underperforming Hillary Clinton among Latino voters in Miami-Dade, which are primarily Cuban voters. And by like 21 points, he was underperforming. So it was like she is up at 30, he was at 9. And I tweeted out, it's because he, unlike her, totally embraced socialism, and they don't want any part of that in South Florida. And this is not just, it's different than just voters that are primarily from Mexico, but these are South American and voters have come from Cuba and Latin America fleeing socialism. So that embrace by Joe Biden of Kamala Harris, of AOC, of the Green New Deal, of Bernie, of Elizabeth Warren, it seems like that ended his campaign in Florida.
Well, that's true. And as you know, Mercy, my wife, is from there. Her parents fled communism. You have a lot of Venezuelans. You have a lot of Nicaraguans. You have a lot of people that fled the terror of socialism and communism. Now, there's a few other issues in your wheelhouse to think about. These Hispanic voters are not loving the idea that there are no genders anymore. They don't like the fact that Joe Biden says one of the first things he'll do is take all the Catholic nuns back to court so they can pay for abortions.
Can I ask a question on that, Matt, for a second?
Sure.
I mean, you've been in politics you're like your whole life, and I've been on the legal side of politics most of my whole life. Why did they think saying I'm going to sue the nuns is a good thing?
Really simple. The old style ethnic Christian Catholic as the backbone of the Democratic Party has been thrown to the side, and they are now a party that is secular, that basically abhors religious people. We see their policies when it comes to the state of Israel as well. Religious people are fleeing the Democratic Party in droves. And I tell you, as I spent time in Pennsylvania this week, guys, it was amazing how many people would come up to us after the events, and they would kind of whisper in my ear and say they're a Democrat that's never voting Democrat again. It's the first time they vote for a Republican. They're literally being kicked out of their party. It's really shameful.
I think in Pennsylvania particularly, which has a large Catholic population, and that population tends to be very pro-life, and even though it was a heavy labor state, this president has reached out to labor in a way that really, Andy, no Republican president has.
No, he has. He really has. And he's done it in a very positive way. He's increased the number of African-American employees, jobs, and so forth and so on. And so he's done something that no other Republican president has done, indeed. And I think that shows itself. I was very impressed with the turnout in Miami-Dade County, where I was born, by the way, and the number of Hispanic voters, Cuban voters, Venezuelan, Latin American people who showed up for that enormous rally that occurred on midnight, and that in Opelika near the airport there, that really showed what would happen in Florida was reflective of that event.
Yep. So, Matt, we appreciate you talking to us, and I hope you can call us back a little bit later.
Yeah,
We're going to be on
I was going to ask you, Matt, and we're talking to, again, Matt Schlapp. I thank him. He's chairman of American Conservative Union. He's a Fox News contributor. He's former political director at the White House under President Bush and a strong supporter of President Trump. His wife works on the Trump campaign. Matt, if we were going to check back in with you again, about how long do you think we need to wait before we get like the next round? You've been watching these for a long time.
How about 40 minutes?
All right, sounds good. Matt Schlapp will be joining us again. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, your coverage is better than anything I'm watching.
Thank you. That's the idea. Appreciate that, Matt.
Of which,
yes.
You should share this with your friends.
Yeah,
we're available right now.
What to do
There's about 18,000 watching on Facebook Live alone. Obviously, we're on other outlets as well. Click the share button. You click the share button. Thousands of you have already. Almost 5,000 of you have already shared.
So
Please
if they click share, it's going to hit everybody on there?
It gets into people's feeds. They get to see it and see this coverage that we're giving with incredible guests. And we're going to sub out here soon to have other people come in, other regulars from Jay Sakiel Live, as well as special guests. So it's a good night to sit back and enjoy maybe the stress that we may cause you, but you know what? We're having some fun here. We do have a lot of calls coming in as well.
We'll get to
some of those. You can give us a call if you want to have your voice heard today. 1-800-684-3110. If you're calling from one of those big battleground states, we'd love to hear from you as well. 1-800-684-3110.
Let me ask Than Bennett. Than, I think the next state we're going to be talking about a lot tonight, this is for everybody, is going to be Pennsylvania. Because the votes are going to start. I don't know what percentage reporting right now, Will, but
19% reporting.
Where does it stand right now at 19%?
Right now, Vice President Biden is about 200,000 votes over President Trump, but 19%. It's really early.
That means all of the early voting probably is being counted. I guess I'm assuming that's how they do it there. I don't know that. Then Pennsylvania, obviously, not a have to, but if the president, which looks like it's happening, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and then Pennsylvania, that makes it that narrows Joe Biden's window significantly.
Oh, if the president wins all of those states, he's probably been reelected, Jay. Look, it's called the Keystone State, and it's a keystone for Joe Biden, no doubt. I have sort of always felt that the Rust Belt would go together, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. But look, President Trump probably only needs two of them, maybe only one of them to get reelected. But Joe Biden, Jay, he needs all of them. So Pennsylvania, I think it's probably the most important state on the map, but it's most certainly the most important state on the map for Joe Biden. Without a win there, his path to the White House is narrowed dramatically and maybe even closed.
Yeah, I think that's right. But we only have 19% of the vote. So now Newsmax, our friends at Newsmax have called Florida. We obviously said Florida. Has anybody else called Florida yet? So, has the Panhandle reported yet?
They don't want to call Florida because they think too many people, I think in the media, will turn it off thinking that Florida is a determinative state. It means who won the election. That was the case back in the early 2000s when Matt Schlapp was political director at the White House.
Yep.
It was the state to win. In 2000, the election legal battle. 2004, by winning it, it was clear that George W. Bush was going to be reelected. It's not the case anymore. The map has changed around
Florida
the
was,
country.
I think, necessary for the president.
For the
Republicans.
president right now, he is starting off way better than Democrats wanted. He's starting off the worst case scenario for Democrats.
Remember,
Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, looking good in Pennsylvania, and Ohio.
Yeah. When you have Florida being
You
reported
heard
right
from
now,
Matt Schlapp. Cleveland
again,
looking horrible for Democrats. That's where Biden went yesterday. That was the one place he left other than Pennsylvania was Cleveland, and it's looking horrible for Democrats.
Go ahead, Logan.
we have our internal numbers, obviously, that we're pulling as well, but we also have what's going on in Florida. In Florida, at this point, you even have, like I said, we're saying Florida, but you have something like the New York Times now saying a 95 plus. It doesn't go any further than that, by the way, on their polls, that Florida has gone for President Trump. I think at this point,
on what the actual differential is?
the numbers right now are still fairly close. But they're having a lot. Let me see. Yeah, it's within that. Let me get the final vote. Their website
President
is
Trump
very
is up 325,000 votes with only 7% outstanding
Left.
in Florida.
And what's outstanding?
There is about 5% in Miami-Dade, and then there's about 5% in Duval County up near Jacksonville. So what we're looking at is those could balance each other out, and what you're seeing is what looks like a Trump victory.
Yeah, I
in
said
Florida.
it could be a 300,000 vote win, which
in
in Florida numbers is gigantic.
the only place in the
Depending on what
Panhandle
you're
that went
talking about Miami-Dade, that could be a Trump stronghold. Also, same thing with outside Jacksonville.
Yeah, and the only places really in the Panhandle area that went at all, and we even consider it would be Tallahassee and those areas that are
that's about
college
it.
towns and all of that. So
FSU, of course.
as you'd expect.
Yeah,
Which
so-
was, I mean, he won handily, Joe Biden, but it doesn't look like overall. And also, they just kind of redid the Georgia race right now. And again, we're giving you our internals and then as well as the New York Times. I think that's telling if it's coming from the New York Times. You know how we largely feel about the New York Times. I
have some friends that are reporters there.
But they don't want to be calling this
do.
early for the president.
Whatever. This is probably the most traffic they've seen. Probably just me refreshing this page. 85% likely in Georgia at this point. And coming in at North Carolina, actually, again, not necessarily what the numbers will tell you, because right now, President Trump behind by under 100,000 votes at this point. So it's starting to narrow.
Yep.
And they're saying quite likely Trump is the
So that's
term.
it.
This
So
is
is
92%.
Let me just tell Trump voters out there, this is exactly how you wanted this, the best way the president could start the night.
Yes.
Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, boom. These were the three states that the New York Times picked because they knew if the president lost one of them, he was in real trouble. Yeah. He's now predicted to win all three by over like 90% by the New York Times. That's the New York Times. They're not trying to play a joke on you as a conservative. There's no more people voting anymore. There's no more people waiting in line anymore. Yep. So where do we go next? Where we go next is Pennsylvania's going to take longer.
Pennsylvania, Ohio.
I've been living in Pennsylvania, as you know.
And of course, we should start talking about. So there was a Republican Senate loss with Cory Gardner, but there's an Alabama pickup with Tuberville. So you've got
We're still at the 53.
53.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen Maine. We haven't seen what are the numbers looking like in Maine? It's not a huge state, especially
it was interesting. There was some
Congressional District 2 and Susan Collins' race.
Yeah, they were.
Let's check that out because that's an important one for the U.S. Senate.
Let me say something about Pennsylvania. Well, I want to go back to the polling though, because I don't remember the final polling number, Andy or Than, on maybe Logan can look it up on North Carolina, but I believe that they had Biden up by 3.
Yeah,
and now you got
started.
Now you got a 92% by the New York Times saying it's going to be probably for the president.
Quite likely. The most New York Times phrase that they could have
Well,
picked.
then here's the thing. When are we going to now wake up, country, and say, okay, this polling data is ridiculous? Go ahead, Will.
And this was from a poll that came out on November 1st from CNBC, Vice President Biden up 2 in North Carolina.
Yeah, and I mean, so they're going to be off, like, in that one, probably they'll be off 4%. By the time he's plus 2 will be, minus 2 is my guess. I mean, we'll see as the numbers come in there. But, I mean, it tells you that the data's skewed. Now, I watched this afternoon as I was getting ready for this, looking at CNN and looking at MSNBC, and you could tell they knew that Florida was not going their way. And the fact of the matter is, Andy, they knew Florida was not going their way when Miami-Dade's numbers were coming out earlier in the week.
That's right, because Miami-Dade County did not come out like they wanted it to come out.
Which apparently Cleveland's the same problem.
To come out. And that's right. Cleveland and Ohio is the same thing. It's that they're not performing as well as they thought they were going to perform, certainly in Miami-Dade County. And when they saw that, they began to freak out about it.
Yeah. So I think that Logan's keeping an eye on that. You're keeping an eye on.
I'm watching Ohio. I'm watching North. I'm also just want to watch the Senate. Have we got any other updates in the Senate? Yeah, let's go to Than Bennett. Than in Maine. What are we looking at?
Yeah, in Maine, it's still very early, just about 5% reporting, but Susan Collins has a pretty big lead there with the early vote, Jordan, about 10,000 votes
but that's
up.
good that she was leading the early vote.
That's right. It is a good start for her. And I would just tell you, circling back to North Carolina for just a minute, because I think it does actually weigh into the main vote. They said that it's quite likely for President Trump. Jordan, I think that's another word for the blue mirage is crumbling. I really do, because North Carolina is a big double whammy for Democrats if they can't win there. Because remember, it's not only very important in the presidential race, but it is a must win if the Democrats want to control the United States Senate. Tom Tillis was one of those seats that they had to win with Cal Cunningham if they were going to take the majority back. So Jordan, here in the next 30 minutes or an hour, if they lose the opportunity for Joe Biden to carry those electoral votes and lose the opportunity at picking up that seat, that is about the biggest double whammy early in the night that Democrats could look at.
Well, it means they're not going to get the Senate. I mean, it makes
are
it really tough.
Are we seeing anything of that special congressional district 2 out of Maine yet? Is there anything voting there? Because that one is very telling, because it's the one that you can win as a Republican. And it's also it's very telling about kind of the Rust Belt, because it's very blue collar.
Yeah.
Anything there, Than?
Yeah, I don't have data on that district yet. I'll try to pull it up for you.
That's one to really look for. That's telling about the presidential race. Let's take some phone calls now. We're going to start taking calls. We'll have some more guests on. By the way, wow. There's only 19% reporting in Michigan, but John James, somebody I can now say this, I donated a lot to. I think he's a great candidate. Is up 229,000 votes. That means early votes in Michigan. Who is that also a great sign for?
The president.
The president of the United States.
The president is right now up 200,000 votes with almost 20% reporting. It's still early.
John James.
And the president as well.
The president Trump is up 200,000.
So they're carrying each other.
All right.
That was going to be important there.
Oh, yeah.
James needed the president. The president needed James. They both needed. It was not like the president was just going to pull him on his coattails. Actually, the president needed John James. He could be a rock star in the U.S. Senate if he pulls this off. And let me tell you something. Michigan falls early tonight.
Oh, yeah.
It's an early night for a lot of people. Now, we're not there yet, and it's going to get later. But I just want to tell if you're a Trump voter, it looks like what we asked you to do and told you to do today. It said, if you want Donald Trump to win, we didn't tell you who to vote for. We said, if you want Donald Trump to win, you better go show up and vote today. But what we also saw is that the Trump enthusiasm was so high that even the early vote numbers coming in have not been high enough yet for Joe Biden. He is not yet pulling any surprises. That's the key. We are now, we're almost till 10 o'clock at night, and Joe Biden has no surprises. Now, they don't want to call that President Trump has got surprises, but let me tell you something. He's about to run the table, potentially.
It's early.
In a bigger way than last time, maybe. Imagine, I can't flip it over to MSNBC right now. Maybe we can put that on in our studio, because they've got to be trying to figure out past.
Florida yet.
I'm sure they got to be figured out, though. Be interesting to me what they're thinking about path to victory for Biden. I
still think they're going to look. I think they're still looking at Pennsylvania, obviously,
Ohio.
Michigan and Ohio.
What's Ohio looking at right now, Logan?
I'll get the current numbers. Give me just a second here.
Okay.
Let's go to Gail in North Carolina online.
Reporting in Ohio.
Yeah,
62% reporting.
So it's the same.
And the president is down 74,000.
Nothing.
Oh, it's close enough.
Nothing.
So it's actually gotten
and then
closer.
Cleveland was down 13%.
16%.
16%. Let me tell you what happens in Ohio. I'm talking to one of my friends who's a reporter right now. I think the president wins Ohio. We're not going to say anything.
You feel bad. It's
for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously
I don't feel
Columbus
bad.
and Cleveland and Toledo. No, but if you were outside of those three areas,
he only went there once.
Yeah.
He had all election day yesterday. He was in Pennsylvania. Ohio's very close. He could have gone there three. He could have done 5-6 events like President Trump. Instead, he did 4, and he went to Cleveland once for 30 minutes.
Let's go to Gail.
Maybe taking
looks like
Lady
may have
Gaga to
wasted his
Pittsburgh
time.
wasn't the best idea for Democrats.
It was ridiculous. I want to tell you. Can I say the one last thing about
thought
this?
you wasted his time.
I want to know who decided. Okay, who decided? If you were advising me, my two sons and my law partner for 900 years, you're going to run for something, Jay. We're in COVID, so here's what we want you to do. I want you to go to a parking lot. We're going to have people in their cars. They can't clap in their cars. They can't even stand outside their car.
By the way,
no, they can't step outside. They can't even roll their windows down.
But they can blow their horns.
They can blow their horn.
Oh yeah, the worst sound in the world. If a horn is blown, it means
only to be
you swerved into someone's lane. There's an accident about to happen.
Wait a minute.
The police are coming through.
Only to be.
We got something.
We have a big shift in Ohio, so the president is only down 49,000 votes now with 67%
So
reporting.
there you go.
He is cutting into that lead very quickly
no,
now.
that's
that was
very
a lead
bad.
that was at 200,000 votes.
10 minutes, 15 minutes
Yes.
ago.
Okay, so let's take Gail's call on North Carolina because North Carolina is still very close, very important. Hey, Gail. Hey, Gail,
Yes,
tell.
hi, I'm here.
Yeah. So what was it like? Where are you in North Carolina? What was it like today in North Carolina? And give us an update on what you're hearing.
Well, I'm on the Crystal Coast, which is near Morehead City in Carteret County. There are a lot of Trump supporters in this county. I've seen flotillas down the Intracoastal Waterway. I've seen flags and trucks lined up and going down one of the major arteries that is, to our island here in our area. And I'm a New Yorker originally, moved down here 6 years ago when I left New York because I couldn't take the politics. And I came down here, and of course now we have a governor who's a Democrat being voted on tonight as well, which we hope is out. But we have a lot of support down here, and we're really pulling.
So where are we, Logan, with North Carolina right now? I mean, it's getting very small. These
it
places
depends
that don't come
on
in.
who you're looking at here, but at this point, North Carolina has just ticked even up further, according again to our friends at the New York Times. It's now at a 95% chance.
Even though Trump is behind the vote.
Even though
Right,
technically
it's
quite
because the
likely, but
counties
it's
that are
almost
left.
likely. We're almost at likely. We're almost likely. We're more likely in Florida. But like you said, Jordan, it's really interesting. North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia, the three states that they picked.
They picked because they knew
the
one of those would be the death nail to Donald Trump.
For the needle. They didn't do a needle for the whole election. They just did it for those three states.
Will's got something.
All three of
President
those states.
Trump only down 21,000 votes in Ohio right now.
Okay, so Ohio is about to flip to President Trump, and then I think once it does, it stays in his category because it's the rural vote. City votes in, early votes in, all the people that mail in vote.
At
That's
that point,
in.
North Carolina, Georgia,
So
Florida.
70% reporting as well.
This is
Ohio is looking
interesting.
good.
This is interesting, folks. This happened 4 years ago.
Yep, he's pulling up a book. While he's pulling that up, share this with your friends. We got
but seriously, the
19,000
president
people.
talked
I want
about
to
it.
see that at 20. Share it right now,
Yeah,
please. Do me a favor.
Because where
Share.
else are you hearing this from? Literally, my dad just walked out. He's talking to people at the White House right now. He could be talking to the president of the United States for all I know. I mean, seriously.
we don't know that.
But he has been throughout the night.
Of course. Yeah.
And because he's his lead attorney on the election matter, not just from impeachment, not just from taxes, which, by the way, did you see any Trump tax returns come out? It's election day. Did New York get any tax returns? No.
Nope.
How did the president's lawyers do? That's us. Pretty good. But we are still looking if we have to file anything tonight. I mean, we're going to be up very late. We've been up late for a couple of nights, but we know the politics of this. There's a point where they can't steal it. It's too hard to steal. 2016, too hard to steal. They wanted to undermine it by saying the popular vote. I don't care what the popular vote is. I'm not even report it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm sure Donald Trump will lose it.
I don't know if you
and
know
I don't
this.
even care.
We just
but
put
this
out a
is the
new
red
video.
wave. We told you the red wave was coming. Now, I got nervous after writing this book. I didn't know COVID was going to happen.
Yeah.
But then the president started feeling it. You started seeing him on the campaign trail. He beat COVID as a 70-something-year-old man and hit 5 states until 2 in the morning last night. I mean, we are feeling pretty darn good right now if you are a supporter of Make America Great Again and Keep America Great. And if you want to see more Supreme Court nominees like Amy Coney Barrett. Will?
In Michigan, with 20% of the vote in now, President Trump is up 220,000 votes.
These are not insignificant numbers.
220,000 votes in Michigan with 20% reporting.
Say that again?
We got 200,000.
In Michigan, with 20% reporting, the president is up 220,000 votes.
Okay.
Should we take a call in Michigan?
Yeah, let's take it.
All right,
Patricia, right?
line 1? Yeah. Line 1, Patricia, you're on the air.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We're good.
Oh, good. So I am a Michigan transplant from South Carolina.
Let's say we had a New Yorker calling from North Carolina. The accents are throwing out. And now we've got the South Carolina in Michigan.
We're all messed up.
We're all messed up. That's great.
Transition
That's beautiful
from South
America.
Carolina, Michigan.
Beautiful
a little
America.
cold, huh?
I don't know. I'd rather have North Carolina's governor than mine. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Your comments.
Yeah, Whitmer may have been a driving factor in this ultimate.
Oh,
All right,
no
so go ahead
doubt.
with your
No
question.
doubt.
Yep.
Well, I was just, I'm a huge fan of John James, and I'm so relieved to see that he is leading. I've been watching the Senate races, and oh my goodness, I would just love to have one of our Senate seats flipped to a Republican. And I'm just wondering what y'all's opinion is about that kind of a switch, what that will do to Michigan, to the Midwest, even for the nation, to have a powerhouse like John.
Yeah, listen, this is the future of the Republican Party, in my view, or candidates like him. And his positions, his policies, the way he articulates, the youth. I mean, I think this is the future of the Republican Party. And look, who would have thought that at this point in the night we'd be talking about Michigan up 200,000 again?
2016 is repeating itself in a bigger way. This should have been tougher for President Trump. There's a global pandemic that's hitting the U.S. even right now. And folks, the red wave that he talked about, that I wrote about, it's crashing hard right now on Joe Biden. The 3 states Joe Biden needed early, one of them, he lost all 3. Florida, North Carolina, Georgia. He's losing in Ohio. He is not looking good in Pennsylvania. North Carolina is predicted to go again.
And now Michigan.
Now Michigan. So where is now we have the path to victory for President Trump. You start looking at, if you're the Biden campaign, what are your paths to what is his path to victory, guys?
Pennsylvania.
Right now?
They have to have Pennsylvania.
If he doesn't win Pennsylvania, does he lose? Let's figure that out. We should know that.
Yeah, let's have our analysts take a look. If Joe Biden, based on the way this has fallen, assuming Texas, what do we have? First of all, Logan, get some Texas numbers.
Texas is close, but it's not all in
Yeah,
yet.
let's get some Texas
Trump
numbers.
is leading.
Okay, we got Texas numbers right now?
This is with 73% of the vote reporting, and this is at
in
the
Texas?
Senate. Yes, sir. I'm looking at the Senate. 75%. It just ticked up. The president is up about 110,000 votes.
Yeah, it's big.
So that's gonna and that means
It's tight,
Cornyn's fine.
Cornyn does look fine as of right now of this latest update.
Okay, so not a likely switch there.
Which was not a number 1 place for Democrats. That was a number 2.
Yes.
Georgia was a number 1.
Yeah, but the point is that they thought they had a play in Texas and in Georgia.
Yes,
They
especially
might lose New Hampshire.
in Georgia.
I mean, President Trump, this is the early vote that's just come in, and he's
Well,
only down 19,000 votes in New Hampshire.
Okay, let's finish up with Texas, then we'll go to New Hampshire.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the demographic shift in Texas gave the Democrats a great heartening and feeling that they were going to win that. And it was false, and I think it's going to turn out to ultimately be false because I think both the president and Senator Cornyn are going to win re-election in Texas.
Yeah. All right, let's. You want to take another? By the way, here's what we're doing, folks. So you know, we're on Facebook, we're on Periscope, we're on ACLJ.org. I'm probably on other platforms as well. Share this with your friends because we're interactive. We're also giving you analysis you're not getting anyplace else, and we're getting behind the numbers. We're looking at counties, we're looking at areas. Look, I'm the litigator here. Well, all 3 of us are, and I look at it with a litigator's eye. And right now, I don't see a lot of litigation necessary. Now, you haven't seen Pennsylvania yet. I don't know what's going to happen up there yet. It's too early to see. But I'm looking at Michigan and saying, there's some things happening. Now, here's the question. Ohio seems to be very, very close. Is that correct? Now, the president was up. Is he up about 100,000, Will?
No.
No?
It's ping-ponging back and forth. The president is now down about 10,000 votes, so they keep going back and
With
forth.
64% in.
Okay, so he's still got a ways to go. All right. I still think he pulls out Ohio.
I do too. And if he pulls out Ohio, I'm trying to figure
Where's
is the
Biden's path?
Yeah.
So he's got to have Pennsylvania. He's got to then ping off Wisconsin. Right? He has to get something in the Midwest.
Yeah, which he could.
Okay, so he's got to get Wisconsin.
But he has to get Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But no, let's assume he gets Pennsylvania.
Yeah, what if he doesn't get Pennsylvania?
Well, I don't know if he has any path left because he didn't flip Texas or Georgia.
So I mean that.
So all these people that were saying Nate Silver and all these guys that were saying 90%, 80 was not, even on Drudge today, 97%
he did say, though,
chance.
Nate Silver tried to say, I'll save him. He said, when we say there's 90% chance, 95, a 5% chance is a real chance, and a 10% chance in sports and politics is a real chance, not a 1%. It's not a 0.2. And so people put way too much into these polls. Polling is dead. Never. Exit polls all the exit polls were wrong. You know what you should look at? Where people are putting their money. And a guy from the UK put $5 million on President Trump.
You mean in a bet?
Yeah, in a bet. Look at bets.
People on DraftKings was one of the biggest online. It's
and
one
it was
of the biggest
shifted
online
back and
sports
forth.
betting. It shifted back and forth, but it primarily the actual people who are users, a huge percentage of them
money
thought President Trump would win the election tonight. Not necessarily just in their specific states. Overall, so like you said, these people are putting money on it that are really focusing on it, not just these are not partisans. These are people who are in it necessarily for their, not necessarily for the best means, but they're in it for their own means, and they're calling it that way. We have hit almost 21,000 people who are watching right now on Facebook. I want to say thank you to all of you. Please continue to share this, and let's grow this for the next however long we're going to go. And it looks like it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
But so far, it's looking okay.
All right, so we're going to get Harry Hutchison in here in a little bit because he knows Michigan. And he's going to take a break. Yep. We're going to get Harry Hutchison in here because he knows he grew up there. He knows that area, and he's following that. So we'll get him in to talk about some of that. Before we get to that, I want to get the latest updates for everybody on Pennsylvania. Where are we on numbers, and where are we on percentages? Will, what is the latest we have on Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania has 19% of the vote in, and the president is about 160 to 170,000 votes down there. But like I said, only 19% reporting.
Now the question is are those votes also early ballots that came in? Do we know that, Fan? Do we know how they're doing the counting in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, they could be counting those now. We don't know exactly which ones are in, Jay. But look, I want to just quickly circle back to your question about, hypothetically, if Joe Biden did win Pennsylvania, is that enough to get him over the line? Jay, it's not. I mean, it's not even close. Even if he wins Arizona, Hillary Clinton won 232 electoral votes last time around. If Joe Biden were to win Arizona and Pennsylvania, Jay, it only gets him to 263 electoral votes. He would have to win either Wisconsin or Michigan in addition to those two. So, Jay, I mean, Pennsylvania, I've told you repeatedly, I think it's the most important state on the map. But the way this is shaping out, if Florida and North Carolina and Georgia all go as it looks like they're going, by the way, I think North Carolina's done. I think Tom Tillis has won. I think the president has won the state.
Do we have numbers on Tom Tillis?
I do. I can pull them up for you. They're tracking
Logan's got them.
No, I'm saying we can get those. I think we should take a call. We have a woman who's been waiting on hold 40 minutes. Michelle, thank you. In Georgia, talking about Georgia, let's take Michelle. Thanks for holding, Michelle. You're on the air.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey guys. Yeah, I'm in Warner Robins, which is a military town.
Sure is.
Have an air base
here. I went to law school in Macon, so I know where you are.
Yeah. I have seen almost nothing but Trump signs.
Yeah.
Here, Thomaston, other places. I know that Griffin in Spalding County is heavily Republican. The one place in Georgia that I have seen a lot of Biden signs, and I was shocked, but I shouldn't have been, was Barnesville, because there's a community college there.
Well, college towns, traditionally, college towns have that, Michelle. So go ahead and finish up, though. Yeah.
Yes, I know Savannah's liberal.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I am
Atlanta, Savannah, even Macon, Bibb County, tends to vote Democratic. But if you look at the rest of the state, the question that they all had with Georgia was, because the race between the current governor and Stacey Abrams was so close, it was a half a point. Was that indicative of what was going to come in a presidential election? And apparently it is. I don't know what the final current Georgia numbers are, but.
Wait, let's look at Pam Bondi. Okay, so we've got a former Florida Attorney General, member of President Trump's legal team and the impeachment team. She's at the White House right now. Pam Bondi is joining us. She knows Florida well. Pam, Florida looked great. We were talking earlier. Florida was looking great for the president, and now it looks like that belt that needed to come in early for the president, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, it is, and the president's looking pretty darn good in Pennsylvania and Ohio.
He is, and what's happening, of course, is the early voting came in first, the mail-in. And in Florida, the panhandle comes in an hour later. So we knew we were going to be fine in Florida. We knew we were going to be successful in Florida. That's what's happening in North Carolina and other states. We're coming back, and we're going to do great.
Yeah, it's interesting because right now in Michigan, the president is up by about 200,000 votes. So there's another one. We were just talking about this, Pam. This is Jay, and thanks for being with us. I am of course, you and I have talked about this. I'm looking at Pennsylvania, of course, with the litigator's eye for a moment, with the Supreme Court eye, because they monkeyed with they played around with the dates and how they're going to count the votes at the end here, and then they weren't going to count them. They were going to segregate them and not count them. Then she said, the Secretary of State said, well, we are going to allow them to be segregated, but we do want them counted. And then some other directives came out contrary to that. Here's my question. We're trying to figure out if Pennsylvania goes to the president, what's Joe Biden's path? I don't see it. Georgia and Texas have fallen out. I mean, he thought he was going to pull out Georgia and Texas. Go ahead.
Exactly. And, Jay, I don't know if you heard his campaign manager earlier. They were saying when they knew we were going to win Florida, they started saying, we have another path. Well, we're not sure what their path is. But right, without North Carolina, without these other states, that they're gone.
Yeah, and it's interesting with Florida, Pam, and you know Florida better than anybody here, and that is the polls yesterday, if you looked at the Real Clear Politics average and all the others, they had the president down 4%. Rasmussen yesterday was Biden plus 4 or 5. And it ends up the president's going to win by, looks like over 300,000 votes, which is probably plus 2, close to plus 2, maybe more, which means the polls were off 6%.
Yes. And Jay, that's always been our prediction that we would win over 200,000. And you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
That's why we don't believe the polls. And the polls are out there to make Republicans scared, to make us feel like we're losing, and to make the other side feel like they're winning. And I mean, I've been on the ground in Florida this entire time and never, ever doubted that we were going to take Florida.
Yeah, so I feel good about that. Let me ask you this. Looking at Pennsylvania, we've got, and this, you're a great lawyer, and it was our privilege to work with you on the victory in the impeachment attempt. But Pennsylvania, as you know, is one that our legal team, and you're part of this, is looking at because of the way they changed that out. I think the last we heard was it was still very early, and the president down was down 170,000. I'm suspecting that's a lot of early voting coming in too. But I don't know that we're trying to verify where the votes are coming from. But Pennsylvania is one we got to really keep an eye on here, on what they're going to try to do with this.
It is, and that's why, as you know, there's a great legal team on the ground ready to go in Pennsylvania with everything happening in Philadelphia, and we know that. But everyone here at the White House, they feel pretty confident about Pennsylvania.
So that's the thing, Pam. If people are feeling confident about Pennsylvania, then it's going to go. They're going to start looking at Michigan. I'm watching because I want to see what MSNBC is trying to spin. Robert Gibbs, what he's trying to spin, and he's now into Arizona because they're still saying that Florida's up for grabs and North Carolina's up for grabs, but they're not. And it doesn't look like Pennsylvania is either. It doesn't look like Ohio or Michigan are looking very good for them either. So that's their up for grabs right now. Where do they go next? They're going to try to find the votes in Arizona. There's not enough votes there.
I just don't.
No, there's nowhere to go. And Ronna McDaniel's walking up the steps right now. And Ron has always said we're going to take all these states.
So here's what you've got right now. Georgia is 47% reporting. The president is up 364,000 votes. So that didn't change, Pam. Then I look at Pennsylvania. It's saying that 19% reporting. And Trump is only down 17,000 votes, which means as that closes up, we're going to take that. Ohio, Trump, the president, is now up 110,000 votes with 74% reporting. So I'm like you, where is the Biden? All these networks are saying, the president has no pathway, very limited pathway. It's a very narrow window. It's what Nate Silver's saying. I'm not saying he has no chance, but he doesn't have much of a chance. I'm thinking right now, if I'm Joe Biden's campaign, I'm thinking, what's my chance?
Jay, they have to say that because everyone would turn off their liberal networks if they didn't say that right now. Because Joe Biden has no path to victory. None. I mean, it's so hard to get around Florida, and we all know that.
All right, so Pam, I know you're at the White House, but I want you to call me back because when we get more data on Pennsylvania, there's nobody I respect more in this legal than you, and and I both know what we're going to be up against. I'm convinced we're going to have a big enough margin where it won't matter, but I'd like to see it. But I'd like you to call back if you can in, say 40 minutes, and let's see where we are on this, all right?
I will.
Great job. Thanks, Pam. It's Pam Bondi, former Attorney General from Florida, our colleague in the impeachment trial, and very, very positive.
Yeah, 3 out of the 4 of us that were here were Floridians at some point. So, I feel very excited to have people like her on, especially when Florida had such a big turnout and such an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, there's Harry Hutchinson's coming on board because we're going to talk about Michigan. Now, I want to get data on Michigan. Than, and also, what are you picking up, Than, right now? And by the way, Logan, tell everybody what to do that may be joining us because the numbers are continuing to grow.
Yeah, a lot of people are joining us right now. So if you're watching, there's 25,000, 30,000 people watching across our platforms. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, Facebook, click that share button because this gets into people's feeds. You can also give us a call. Look, I know a lot of you have been on hold for a long time. We are going to get to your phone calls. If you stay on hold, we'll get there. But you just got to give us time. We're obviously all crunching the numbers. That's 1-800-684-3110. But you can do me a favor and share. I want to thank everyone also who's putting in the good comments about the Electoral
South
College
Carolina
video.
called for the president and Lindsey Graham. We've already said that, I think. But
I believe
say
so.
that again.
South Carolina called. But yes, if you could share, we would really appreciate it. Obviously, it gets this into more people's feeds, and we think that's important. As Pam Bondi just said, a lot of these networks aren't going to call states because they need the ratings. Okay, that's just the truth. We saw it last time. We're going to see it this time. We're not afraid to tell you what's actually happening. Most of them have not called Florida. Okay, and at this point, it's almost the percentage is comical. Like I said, even the New York Times has practically called it, but the major networks have not. Only Newsmax has called it. So you know what? We're going to be here, be your true source for this. So click share.
Yeah, we want everybody to share it with your friends on whatever platform you're on. And retweet if you're on Twitter. Harry Hutchinson joining us. He's our Director of Policy. Than Bennett, our Director of Governmental Affairs. I want to go to both of you this. Right now in Michigan, and let's get the most recent numbers if we can. They are right now. So the president's up 225,000. John James for Senate, and that would be a net pickup, Harry. In what do you think? This is your state, your home state. What do you think's going on here?
Well, first, I think John James is an excellent candidate. Yes. Number two, he is battle-tested. He ran 4 years ago, and he came very, very close. And so I think if you look at the early vote totals, both John James and President Trump are doing sensationally well in Michigan. And so what I'm looking for is a breakdown in terms of the vote in both Detroit and Detroit's suburbs. That will tell the real tale. But the hidden asset for the Republicans in the state of Michigan is the Democratic governor of Michigan, who has been ruthless in cracking down on Michigan citizens, and I think that has backfired massively. And so I think right now, both the president and John James are looking really well.
Yeah, I'm texting to a lot of friends of mine that are sending me messages. Let me tell you, I want to go to Than on this. So it looks very good in Michigan.
Yeah.
It's only 23% of the vote, but this is a heck of a good start. I mean, it's a very good
areas,
start.
Though, big areas that you wouldn't necessarily, like Detroit, you wouldn't necessarily associate specifically with being more conservative, and it is looking good.
Yeah, so what is your view, Than, of where we are right now on that one?
Yeah, here's the deal. The president and John James are both tailor-made for Michigan, and it's showing, Jay. Look, we said on the broadcast earlier today that we were looking for a sign out of Virginia to see if it was going to be more like 2016 or more like the polls. I just heard from a friend who works in Virginia, very detailed on this. He said this is 2016 over and over again. So when I apply that, Jay, to Michigan and Wisconsin, maybe even Minnesota, but certainly Pennsylvania, it applies to the Rust Belt. So look, I think Michigan is probably your strongest case there because of the strength of the candidates and how much they match. But Jay, I think this is going to spread across the Rust Belt. I think you're looking at a 2016 map again.
You know, what's interesting here, Harry, and this is, and I think, Than, you're absolutely right. But, you know, you're a law and economics professor. The economic issues, when they did the exit polling, I don't put a lot of weight in the exit polling. And my goodness, you know, I don't put a lot of weight in the polling because obviously that's way off. But the economic issues were still the number one issue for the American people. You're a law and economics professor. That seems to be, and in Michigan in particular, because they've had such a strong recovery, obviously COVID impacted all of us, the whole entire world, but had such a big recovery, the economic issue seems to be a really big issue here.
Absolutely. So there has been a massive recovery in Michigan for the first 3 years of President Trump's presidency. Then you had the coronavirus shutdown, essentially.
Yeah.
And the governor of the state of Michigan shut things down too severely.
Yeah.
Guess what? That means that workers in Michigan are hurting, and they recognize their best chance of getting back to work is reelecting President Trump as opposed to Joe Biden, who has threatened to shut the entire country down again.
Okay, we got some new news. So Wisconsin, is this correct, Will? 27% in. The president is up. Now, this is obviously close, 26,000. Now, if the president picks up Wisconsin, which I will tell you seems possible, Michigan, we'll see what happens in Arizona. Biden did not pick up Texas or Georgia, the two states they thought they had a real shot at flipping, and they lost Florida. And they could say now, well, we didn't think we were going to win Florida, but they lost Florida. But let's go ahead and take a call. It's interactive. Let's go ahead and take a phone call.
Yeah, we're going to go to Dante in California. Dante, thanks for holding. You've been holding for a long time. We appreciate it. Welcome.
Hey, Dante.
Hi, Jay.
Yes.
Yes. I live in LA County. I voted for Trump in person today. Very glad to do that. We did about 8:30. My question is, with all these mail-in ballots,
yes,
is it going to cause some states to delay, cause multiple recounts? How is the ACLJ going to get involved with these legal battles moving forward with all this late mail-in voting?
Yeah, so let me give you two responses. Let me give you first as the president's private lawyer. Obviously, I'm looking at these very carefully as private counsel to the president. So as counsel to the president, I'm looking at this in from one particular lens, which is particularly Pennsylvania. But there's a deeper issue here, or as significant issue, and that is the constitutional issues, Harry, when you have a situation where rules and procedures are not being followed. We haven't seen it yet. Well, we've seen it in Pennsylvania, but we haven't seen it widespread. I'm hopeful that it doesn't happen. But you have rules and have end dates for a reason in elections.
Absolutely. And those are actually written rules. And then you have judges who are exercising their own independent judgment, and they're saying, oh, we have the coronavirus. Let's extend the deadline because someone claims they can't vote. The reality is the whole coronavirus issue is not a reason, in my opinion, not to vote in person. But if you prefer not to vote in person, there are plenty of avenues to vote either early, to vote via absentee ballots, etc. But what I'm a bit leery of is the Democratic Party propensity to engage in what might be called ballot harvesting, or engage alternatively in outright fraud. And that, I think, is something that we need to keep our eye on very, very carefully.
And that's in the coming hours and days. And there, the ACLJ will file briefs on the constitutional issues. I'll be representing the president in a private capacity, but the ACLJ and ACLJ team will file on just a friend of the court briefs on the constitutional issues. Georgia is still sitting at 51% reporting, but
I mean, not a high percentage of reporting compared to where Florida's
but
coming in. We know there's been some issues. Atlanta, had a water main break in the State Farm Arena, which was a big polling place, so they got to stay open a little later, a few hours later. So we've seen those areas shift, but currently still a big lead, nearly 500,000 votes at this point for
where are
President
these polls
Trump.
coming from? And they had the president down in Georgia. Let's be honest.
Well,
they had. I mean, Trafalgar did not. I will give them credit. The Insider Advantage poll did not, but everybody else had the president down in these.
It's still the numbers are shifting. You can see in Georgia, it's not like as clear cut as some of these places. I mean, you have North Carolina and you have Florida, which most of them are pretty much almost at the point of calling.
So where are we in North Carolina? Let's get those numbers.
I can get you the current numbers in North Carolina. Currently, Joe Biden still has a lead with 84% of the vote. But I guess they're believing that
it's a 30,000.
How's it doing for Tillis in the Senate race? That's another one we're keeping our eye on.
So for the Senate race, we have Tom Tillis is currently up 15,000 votes with 85% of the vote recorded.
Okay. So then the question is...
They're saying in Georgia, DeKalb County isn't reporting their votes yet.
Okay, well,
that is one of the reasons they have not called it.
Okay.
Which, I mean,
that's understandable. It's a big county. We live there. We know DeKalb County.
A big county that can be,
But North Carolina is still pretty close. Yeah, but the New York Times is saying...
North Carolina very close, but the New York Times saying a 95% chance right now that he takes North Carolina. I think, like Will said, the numbers have just gotten tighter and tighter and tighter as the evening has gone on. There hasn't been a definitive lead change, but there has been the gap has narrowed.
So Than, Tillis winning will be an upset because we wanted him to win, obviously, but it looked grim. I mean, he was way down in the polls.
Trump did just win Kansas. They're calling Kansas.
Okay, go ahead, Than. Yeah.
Jay, this was one of the 4 states that Democrats had to flip to win control of the United States Senate. They, of course, also had to keep Michigan, which I don't know that they're going to do now. But, they absolutely had to win North Carolina. And, look, I'll just tell you, based on what's out in North Carolina and Georgia, those are reverse scenarios. The president is going to win North Carolina now. Tom Tillis is going to win North Carolina. That gap is going to continue to grow. The margin in Georgia is going to shrink, Jay, but I don't think there's even anywhere close to enough out there. So you got to look at what's out. But look, I feel very confident that the president and Tom Tillis are both going to win in North Carolina.
Right, I want to do some deep diving right now into North Carolina. So I want our team looking at North Carolina. I want to know what counties are out and where those counties went last in 2016. I think that's very important because everybody's very confident. I'm a lawyer. I deal with facts and evidence. I want to see the evidence. I'm optimistic, but I want to see the evidence. But I think it's very good that, obviously, I was just talking to Harry. I think it's possible that we could see in this election, you could see a net pickup to the Republicans in the Senate, which we haven't had the McSally vote out in Arizona yet, although it was trending her way in the polls. So we'll see what happens there. But the irony of that is they were calling it exactly the opposite, that this is going to be the Democratic takeover. We haven't even looked at the House seats. I have no idea what's happening in the House of Representatives. I'll let Dan look at the House of Representatives.
I think you're absolutely correct. The last time that I checked, Susan Collins in Maine, she was still up, so someone can check me on that. And so if John James wins Michigan, and we now have Tuberville winning in Alabama, it is possible that the Republicans could be in better shape in the Senate this go-round, even with the loss of Cory Gardner's seat.
Okay. Logan, you were saying?
No, I was just saying there's a lot of information. A lot of people are coming in. There's maybe issues in Pennsylvania, so I'm gonna check on that. I'm gonna get back to you shortly.
About the mail-in
I'm gonna
ballot.
Confirm whether that's an accurate. Who's reporting that?
Which I'm looking at that obviously through a litigator's lens on that one. So we're keeping an eye on that.
And that will be where things get a little
listen. That's
a little
the state,
quirky.
Now it may end up not being. Republicans have won the presidency without Pennsylvania. It's not a have to, but I want to see how it's playing out. I think that's important to see. We're starting to see votes come in now in Arizona as well. So we'll start looking at that. But I want to know my eyes are on North Carolina right now, Pennsylvania. I want to see how that trends out. Everybody that's watching on Facebook or Periscope or other social media platforms we may be on, we encourage you to share this with your friends right now.
23,000 people on Facebook. That's really great. We appreciate all the support, and thanks for watching. We're going to be going for quite a while longer.
No, we're not going anywhere right now.
It has been an exciting night already, so thank you all again. Like I've said before, share. That is immensely important.
Let's go ahead and take Jennifer's call. She's online.
Jennifer in Wyoming. Yeah, some of you guys have been hold forever, and I
Let's try to grab
that.
a couple quickly.
Let's go to Jennifer in Wyoming. Beautiful Wyoming. Jennifer, you're there.
Jennifer, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Yep.
Okay, so it looks like Trump is up a little in Pennsylvania, but I was listening to you earlier today, and you said that there was a time, you knew exactly when you were going to have to pull the trigger. Okay, so my question is really about illegal ballots. How do you, if you suspect it, how does that come to light? How do you know?
Sure. That's a great question, Jennifer, and I appreciate you asking that. So I got to determine whether it's outcome determinative. In other words, if the president wins by a significant enough margin, does the outstanding votes, are there enough of them to make it outcome determinative, or to flip the election? So that you had ballots that were cast not according to the statute, so that would be, in our view, illegal and disputed ballots. These are the ones that are being segregated. So there'd be constitutional challenges raised there. But also, is it outcome determinative? If the president wins by a big enough margin, if he does win Pennsylvania, or if it's outcome determinative, and we may fight it anyways, even if the president wins the other states, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know. So I know what the trigger is. It is fact dependent. I look at is it outcome determinative is kind of the way we're looking at it right now. And that could change. But it's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. And like Logan told you, there's not another broadcast where you're going to get this kind of analysis.
No, I just had one of our friends text me and said that he currently just muted the other networks because he realized that they were doing exactly what I said they were doing, which is to string this thing out and string out states when it is unnecessary. But we're going to see, polls tighten. We're going to things change. So we got to just see.
Look, I mean, Arizona, remember, McSally was down.
Florida's the one that people are I think, getting a little frustrated. Yeah, because since we've been on the air, it's not like things have.
All right, interesting.
Shifted.
Susan Collins in Maine up 12,000. So that's interesting. Georgia's polls seem to not be moving much right now.
No.
President's still at that same number. And do we have any drill down on North Carolina yet, Will?
Our data team is drilling down into the counties. I should have that for you shortly.
Okay.
I will say
I want
this.
to bring up that in Arizona, we are getting some early votes. This is 72% reporting, and the president is trailing by about 200,000 votes right now. We'll see what happens in that final quarter.
Yeah.
It's a small lead, but Trump has overtaken Joe Biden in North Carolina.
Okay.
So
it's starting to close.
As they started to say, that would close. Currently, right now, with 88% reporting, you are talking about a 30,000 vote lead for President Trump. But again, coming from a massive deficit and working his way up with all of the mail-in and all the other voting.
And along with that, Senator Tillis is up about 51,000 votes in North Carolina as well.
So it looks like Senator Tillis is going to be reelected, which is great. It looks like the president will carry this out in North Carolina. Look, these were two big states. Here's what Joe Biden has lost tonight. Okay, let's focus for a moment on what has he lost tonight. He lost Florida. He lost Georgia. It's even surprised. It looks like he's lost Georgia because Georgia's up significantly for the president. He's losing North Carolina. Texas does not. We'll get an updated number on Texas, but I don't think he's pulling off Texas. So these flip states didn't happen, and the pathway states didn't happen. And Harry, Florida, as much as they said wasn't a have to for the Biden campaign, and they did have avenues, it was a bad start to the day for them.
Absolutely. So if you go back to the Gore versus Bush election 20 years ago, that was the pivotal state. And I think the Biden camp thought they had a legitimate chance of winning in Florida. A lot of the poll numbers, the early poll numbers, suggested that Biden was doing very, very well among seniors. It turned out that was an illusion. But nonetheless, the Biden campaign kept pursuing this illusion, and I think it was a bad bet, and they probably will lose in Florida.
Senator Cornyn, the networks have called that Texas has now called for Senator Cornyn.
That's right. And again, another
and the president's up by now 250,000 votes with 78% reporting, so it looks like the president's going to win that.
And AOC won. So you know what?
What a shock. Okay.
We're shocked, but you know what? We got to report the facts. So, another term for all of your favorite.
Let's go ahead and take the caller on line one. Shannon's been holding for a long time.
All right, Shannon, you're calling South Dakota. Thanks, Shannon. You're on the air.
Hi, thank you so much.
Sure.
Hey, I just wanted to call to find out what's up with Virginia. I lived there for 10 years. It's such a red state.
It was. I lived there too. Used to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking. I'm like, why on earth are they calling it for Biden? And also
because of Northern Virginia.
Things have changed.
In Northern Virginia is so strong. Go ahead.
Oh, and I also want to ask, have you ever heard of something that's called Operation Scorecard? I was worried about the deep state, CIA, and that kind of cheating.
Don't know that one. I know a lot about those issues. That's a new one for me. But you know what? I never say no to. I don't know. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. But I appreciate you calling in, Shannon from Virginia. Let's go ahead and we got another call that's been on for a while. I want to get to these. Folks, share this with your friends. We have a lot of people watching right now.
Yeah, let's go to Susan. Susan in Vermont. We kind of knew where Vermont. I think Vermont, I believe, was called. At the moment the polls, there's 0% reporting, and they called Vermont. Yeah. But you know what? We're so happy to have you on.
Tuberville, by the way, is the new senator-elect from the state of Alabama. Reporting.
Tommy Tuberville.
War Eagle.
War Eagle from Will.
That means some people that are University of Alabama fans probably voted for him.
No, I have to say this before we go to you, Susan. Members of my family, my wife's family, told me, they're like, I never thought I would do it, but I had to. And, it shows you, I never thought I would I would vote for anything with Tommy Tuberville, but I did it. You know what? I got to give it up to them. For once, maybe the one time ever, putting the Auburn and Alabama rivalry to the side for a moment for the betterment of their state. The fact that Tommy Tuberville, I have to say, in my life, if you could have told me anyone who may be there, and we're going to see tonight's coverage.
Thanks so much. I'm originally a New Yorker, but my husband and I just moved up here 2 years ago for a number of different reasons, and his family is up here. My question is, I keep looking at the state map.
Yep.
I mean, the
electoral college.
Thank you.
Hey, that's from our video.
Yeah.
I'm very tired tonight.
No, we all are. But go ahead.
Why haven't those numbers changed that much?
Because they're not calling Florida. I mean, they're not calling these states.
They're not calling a lot of states.
Yeah,
and
they're just not calling the states that are clear that there's not a number of shifts that can take place. But, Logan's team did I'm going to say this, we got 24,000 people almost on. I'm sure with other media, probably close to 35 or 40,000.
Yeah, that's just on Facebook.
Yeah, so let me tell you this. We have a project at the ACLJ called Bald Beagle. That's all right. You heard it here. Bald Beagle.
Hey, I'm seeing people quoting Bald Beagle videos in the comments, so I got to give them some
They
praise.
did, and there we go. It's up on the screen right now. You're on Facebook. Go sign up for that page. Go there and subscribe. And let me tell you why. The team did a great piece on the Electoral College, and it received, I think it's had 25,000, a ton of views. So. Plus, we had it on air and had many thousand more watching it, and it's a great primer for you. we thought it was for kids, but actually for adults it was pretty helpful too.
Yeah, I
because it
think a lot of
actually
people
explained
finally go, oh, that
the
makes
electoral
sense.
college,
Yeah.
which is not so easy to explain, but makes perfect sense. And glad that the founders, Harry, that's one thing from constitutional history, that the founders thought about that it shouldn't just be a popular vote.
Absolutely, and I think that is a wise choice. And the founders, when they wrote the Constitution, they also avoided a popular vote with respect to the Senate. That has subsequently been changed. And I think there is some reason why you would want not to rely completely on the popular vote. Why would you think about that? Because you want to make sure every citizen in every nick and corner of the country that they are represented ultimately with respect to the election of the president.
MSNBC is really pushing that, Will, just so you and your team knows, that North Carolina is going to go for...
they're saying too close to call.
Yeah, they're saying too close to call, but I'm watching them put the numbers up on the screen, and they're trying to make it like this is going to... I don't see it, based on especially the counties that I think are out. But...
Well, you brought up the Electoral College and all that. When you do look at these maps, it is so aggressive that the point, even if you said, obviously in the states it is different, it is not represented that way. But when you see that most of these states, most of the battleground states that we're talking about have pockets of blue in a sea of red, really shows whether those are being represented or not. Or these are people that moved to town and sort of took over the more, city environments that happen there. I do think you should check out that video. A lot of people have watched it, especially if we're going to need it potentially at the end of the night.
Right.
But until then.
Well, yes, because they're going to try to say, I was just doing another thing, they're going to try to say that the Electoral College, but he didn't win the popular vote. Notice that, though, even MSNBC, they ain't paying attention to the popular vote because they tried last time to play that game. It doesn't matter because
it doesn't impact the election.
Yeah. So, yes, is Adam Schiff right now coming up with plans to try and undermine the president? Sure. As his legal team, let me say, I can't wait to pound you into the ground, Adam Schiff, when you try. Because we did it once when we were more vulnerable.
With words.
More vulnerable the first time because the president had to run for re-election.
Right.
This time, wait for President Trump not having to run for re-election. The Democrats, the left, the liberals, the professors, the colleges, the universities, this is your worst nightmare. He has nothing to lose now. If he won this the way he wins it, he's going to bring in people like John James with him to the U.S. Senate.
It's going to be
He's going to pick up Senate seats. So what's Nancy Pelosi going to do? It looks like
By the way, Ohio.
They called back Virginia. While I was just doing
I was just on a call with Virginia. They've called it back?
Yes.
CNN called it back.
Okay, whoa.
That is interesting.
Okay, so let's get some Virginia data.
CNN doesn't want to do that.
No, they don't. Let's go to Lauren in California. Go ahead.
We'll tell you. California. Thanks.
Yep.
You're on live. Give you a second to get yourself together. All right, we're on. Lauren.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm from California, and I have noticed that there is a lot of Trump supporters here, more so than I've ever seen in my years of voting. With all the rallies and when he's come into Orange County, it's just a sea of red. Is it possible that California can flip?
I don't think so. But California House seats can. So Dan, that's what's important here is if you see big turnout for President Trump, even in a place like California, and it's not enough to carry the state, it could still be enough to flip some House seats.
Oh, absolutely. There are 7 Republicans from the state of California, Jordan, including the minority leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy. So absolutely, those are valuable. And, I just wanted to give you one other data point about the conversation you were having about Virginia. A lot of the reason that they think that the late vote would go Democrat is because Fairfax County is one of the latest to report. I live very close to Fairfax County. It's a suburb of Washington, D.C. It usually comes in late and pushes the Democrat candidate over the top. Jordan, Fairfax County is 99% in. And Joe Biden only won it by 7 percentage points. So even though only half of the vote is counted there, the vote that usually comes in late, Jordan, much of it is already counted, and the president still has a lead. Now, look, I think Joe Biden's probably still going to win, but that is much
that
closer
CNN
than Joe
pulled
Biden
it
needed
back.
to be.
Remember Virginia in 2016? Dad?
1.5 points.
We said if President Trump was even close there, it was over.
Yes. So
it looks like that again.
Go ahead.
I've lived in Fairfax and I've lived in Northern Virginia. This margin in Fairfax has to be an absolutely huge disappointment to the Biden campaign. And so Virginia is in play. Biden is still the favorite, but Virginia is in play.
Right now, with 55% of the vote reporting in Virginia, the president is up by almost 200,000 votes. Now, you could flip that, but if Alexandria is reporting, Fairfax is reporting, I mean, we don't know if Alexandria is reporting.
Senator Lindsey Graham in the most expensive Senate race, he won.
What percentage, Jordan?
They just called it he won. I mean, so South Carolina was called a while ago for President Trump.
Yep.
But he's won. The Democrats spent $200+ million against Senator Graham there.
Okay,
and they lost. So they are not. It's another repeat of what they've tried to do. They spend too much time in places that are too hard for them to win, and not enough time in places where maybe they could convince people. But the embrace of socialism, I think, will be
the
that.
telltale.
That is Joe Biden's. The Hillary Clinton that she came in with so many negatives, people just they didn't like her already to begin with. She's connected to a former president with scandals. Joe Biden's problem was Joe Biden, 1, was too old, 2, couldn't really get his message out, 3, embrace socialism.
They
And
just called
rioters.
Louisiana for the president. That's not a shock.
Yeah, no shock there. It used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, these states.
Let's take Al's call. And by the way, we're taking your phone calls, 800-684-3110.
684-3110.
And share it with your friends.
Absolutely. Keep sharing this with your friends and family. We continue on. And so
Al, go ahead.
It is like new every 5 minutes because you're getting new states and new info.
Okay, Al, you're on the air.
Hey, guys, you got the best coverage going. I was watching Fox News, and you got them beat by a mile. Great
Thank you.
stuff.
Appreciate that. A lot of people saying that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really great. I enjoy your radio show, too.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Fox News has reported that the Democrats will hold on to the House and that they may gain as many as 5 seats. And that seems inconsistent with the Trump wave that seems to be emerging. I wonder if you could comment on that. I know you haven't been focusing on
Yeah, I mean, the House, remember, every seat is up. So everybody, if you're an incumbent or if it's an open seat, and remember, a lot of those seats, that's more based off popular vote. So California, that means every seat is up. I think it was always going to be, even in my book, The Next Red Wave, I said the goal of the next red wave would be that by the midterm, so in 2022, that you would have a chance at picking back up the House.
Which I think you do.
Which I think you could. But, Than, it's going to be pretty tough for Republicans to take back the House. The question is just, do they lose a couple seats more? It's not really that different. Or is it like, do the Democrats, is that their one thing they really won big in, which for the night is pretty small?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of things, Jordan. First of all, it's going to be a little bit of a while before you're going to be able to determine the House. Just so many races, 435 of them there. But Republicans would have to pick up about 18 seats from the 2018 result. Now, there have been some retirements and some party switching and some vacancies. Probably not going to happen. But, Jordan, I will tell you, of the races that have been called right now, Republicans have won 103 of them, and Democrats have only won 76 of them. And I know you probably don't want to go all the way down this path, but I will tell you, the path to 5 pickups in the United States Senate that is still being predicted, it's not there. I'm just telling you right now, that's not going to happen. Democrats will not pick up 5 seats.
No, right now joining us from the White House is Rick Grinnell, former acting director of national intelligence, and of course also ambassador to Germany, and our colleague here, special advisor at the ACLJ. Rick, we started the night great with Florida, then we took the Georgia off the table. North Carolina looks great. Ohio looks good. What are you thinking?
Look, I think the one thing is that you can't watch the national media, the cable. They're terrible. It's terrible. I mean, the story for me tonight is just how terrible they are. Florida was done for the president an hour ago. So the reality is that they're holding this out to pretend like they've got a race. But put Florida in Trump's column. Georgia and North Carolina both are looking good for President Trump when you look at what is left to be counted. Ohio is fantastic for Trump, looking very good. Early indications for Pennsylvania look good. Early indications for Michigan look good. I am very encouraged right now. We've got a long night. Things could change. But right now, I'm very encouraged that Donald Trump is on pace.
You know, I was glad that we got Florida out of the way. I felt confident too, Rick. You know that I've been particularly looking at Pennsylvania because of the potential legal issues that could take place there. It's already made one trip on a stay basis to the Supreme Court, but there could be a merits decision necessary there. We'll see how that shapes up in the night. But I think that the thing that's encouraging, among many other things, is Michigan. And we could be looking at a new U.S. senator.
Absolutely. Look, I think that there's one issue that I've been close to that I know has really energized Albanians, and there are a lot of Albanian Americans in Michigan, and they have been really energized about President Trump and what he's been able to deliver. I've been in Detroit and met with the Albanian community a number of times. And I think that we're seeing African Americans being drawn into the party because of Donald Trump and because of John James. We're seeing Albanian Americans, Polish Americans have been really excited about the president. I think he's really polling well and doing well with Latinos. So I have to give it to the president. He's really expanded the tent for the Republicans, and we're seeing some of those signs.
Yeah, I think we are. Our colleague Harry Hutchinson's here, and he was shaking his head when you said the situation about Albania.
Absolutely, because if you just look at the city of Detroit, it surrounds an area called Hamtramck, which used to be very strongly Albanian and Polish. And so it's really exciting to hear the president doing so well with these ethnic groups in Detroit. That bodes particularly well for winning the state for both John James and the president. But I also think it bodes well for the future of the Republican Party. They are doing well with working class Americans.
And let me add just 2 points to that. One, the Trump administration was able to put Poland into the visa waiver program, which really flipped the whole way that we were dealing with Poland. Our relations with Poland have really dramatically increased under Donald Trump. And I think that Polish Americans have recognized that, and they're largely in the Midwest. Many Polish Americans are in Wisconsin. And Minnesota and Michigan. So I think you're seeing a little bit of that. And remember, this is going to be such a close race that minor tweaks from groups are going to make a big difference. And then when you talk about the Albanians, certainly they have seen this president get nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for his work between Kosovo and Serbia. And this directly impacts the Balkans. And so they are very excited about the work that this president has done. And we're seeing that in the suburbs of our big cities.
By the way, we're talking to Rick Rennell, and we want to encourage you to share this whenever social media platform you're on. We encourage you to share this with your friends.
And all of our guests, too, that we've had on, we're going to reconnect with if we stay on longer to it. As long as you keep watching and sharing the broadcast, we'll keep going. I mean, the interesting thing, I want to go back to this, Rick, because people have got to be, that are watching also cable news, maybe while they're watching us, too. They've got to be so frustrated, even with Fox News, I'll be honest. Because, I mean, this is a joke that they're even putting Florida still up, that they're putting these other states still up. And, I mean, the whole Biden initial wave of the one states he had to win, one of them really to put the nail in the coffin of Trump, he lost all of those. So it's Biden, and if the media was being honest, it's Biden who's got to scramble now. I mean, this isn't over. But it's the Biden camp. I'd much rather be in Donald Trump's shoes right now than Joe Biden's.
A litigator? Yes, you take this case. Yes, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. No question about it. And I think the mood here at the White House is exactly that. We are excited about how Donald Trump is performing. I'm looking at counties in Pennsylvania. He's outperforming in Republican counties in Pennsylvania from his 2016 days. Ohio again looks fantastic, but and they could call this for Donald Trump in Ohio. They really dug deep into the counties to see where the votes have already come in, but they're not willing to do that. And you've got to ask yourself, why are these cable news channels trying to prop up a race in certain states when it's not a race anymore?
Well, Rick, here's what it is. I mean, it's clear. They want this to go as long as they can. And why is that? It's commercial revenue.
And commercial revenue.
Exactly.
Correct, yeah.
So here, if they were being honest, Florida was over, like you said, an hour ago. It was over 2 hours ago. But the thing that's been amazed me in the whole thing, and you and I have talked about this before, look at these polling companies where they're making this stuff up. I mean, they're often states by 4 and 6 points, but that's what they said Biden plus 4 to 6, and then boom. So I mean, this is just it's amazing. Go ahead.
No, and I think you just hit it on the head, is that this polling is hocus pocus. They're guessing. They interview 600 people, and most people aren't going to be honest with somebody they don't know who's calling their cell phone. And it's a really sad situation. I think that the media need to have an inward look at what they're doing. Yep. Many times they're inflaming situations and then asking the government agencies to respond to something that they inflamed, and then they report on the fact that the government is now responding back. I mean, it's really they're creating problems just to be able to get viewers. And I think as consumers of news, we're going to have to start looking elsewhere, and we're going to have to send a powerful message that it's not going to work with us.
And I think we're doing that tonight, Rick. We appreciate you calling in. I want you to call back in about an hour. Give us your latest on that, or if something breaks in between. Thank you for calling, Rick Grinnell. By the way, thank you for your service to the country, Rick, on so many different levels. We all appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we'll hear back from Rick. Colonel Wes Smith has joined us now. Let me take a call here from Art, because Art's calling from Florida and is asking an interesting question. Art, go ahead. You're on there. If you want to call us, by the way, 800-684-3110. And everybody that's on right now, share this with your friends. That's how we get more people involved in the conversation. 800-684-3110 if you want to talk to us on air. Art.
All right, Jay. Thank you very much for taking my call. You gentlemen have kind of already commented on the media, but what I was calling in to suggest is that the reason why they're doing this, it's like a narcotic. They want to hold on to their viewership. Yep. So the longer they string these things out, the more the people stay on, and they make more money, obviously, because they have sponsors paying for this whole thing.
But no, look, Art, I think you're right, because and I got Colonel Smith here, and Wes, I'm thinking about this. Florida, big military state. Mm-hmm. Obviously a big pathway opening lane for the president.
Right.
And the network still haven't called it.
It is a mystery. Well, it's not, because we've just explained the mystery. Yeah, it's remarkable that they have not called it yet. You were talking about the polls, Jay. The thing that I find interesting, what Rick was saying just now as he was talking, I thought about this. 4 years ago, the polls, and we know this from the data that was released, By
the way, the NASDAQ futures have gone through the roof. So everybody knows.
I bet.
NASDAQ's going crazy.
They overpolled college graduates in metro areas, and they underpolled working class people in rural areas. This was 4 years ago. You would think they would change their methodology. But some of those same polling companies, once again, have overpolled college educated people in metro areas and underpolled everyone else. And then they wonder why they could be off as much as they are. They are not reliable. I think the days of most of the pollsters are over when it comes to presidential
Deb's asking
politics.
the same question from Ohio. Deb, get me the latest numbers on Ohio, too, by the way, while we have Deb on. I'm showing the president at 51.8 and Vice President Biden at 46.8. So that's about a 200,000. That's about almost 250,000 difference. Ohio's going for the president. Deb, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking my call. Deb from Ohio. I'm just curious why they're not calling Georgia and Florida yet.
Because it's exactly what Wes just said. I want to get Andy and Harry in this conversation, because Rick Grinnell and I and Jordan said this. I mean, I can't give you a reason why they're not, other than they just don't want it to end. And they certainly don't like the way this is going. I mean, we haven't hit hysterics yet, but you look at Texas, by the way, the president's up almost 400,000 votes. I mean, or 300, over 300,000 votes. So all of these blowout states and changes in Georgia and Texas did not materialize.
No, they didn't. And it's not part of the Democratic playbook. They're back to the days of Hillary Clinton and President Trump the first time. They're all going to
campaign.
They're going to be crying in their beer and so sad when the president blows it out at the end and goes to 5 and 6 rallies, goes to Dade County. Turns out the Cuban-American Venezuelan vote, does these things, goes to Rome, Georgia, in the middle of the night, and subsequent to that has another campaign, closes the gap, and these networks will not call Georgia, which is my state and which is going for Trump. I don't care what anybody says, and those electoral votes ought to be counted for. And the same thing with the state of Florida. So why not count them?
Okay, so I'm going to get Harry on this. So Michigan's got 34% reporting. They've got the president up 200,000. Pennsylvania's got 32% reporting, 200,000 up for the president. Seems to be his number. And in Wisconsin, it's still stuck at 37%. He's up plus 30,000. But the polls are wrong and the networks are wrong.
Absolutely. So I think it's important to keep these things in mind. First, the networks said Trump could not win, which was precisely what they said in 2016. Yep. The networks have been addicted to beating President Trump for 3.5 years. They have accepted virtually every single statement from Adam Schiff as if it were the gospel truth. And so now they want to hold on to their dreams desperately. But I think at the end of the day, their dreams will come to a crashing fall, and I think that is very good for their humility.
Yeah, so our good friend Ted Groves, a great attorney in Washington, D.C., just let me know that in Virginia, the Virginia 2, 4, and 7 have gone back with our Republican with most precincts reporting.
Yeah, the Virginia numbers look very good for Republicans, Jay. Now, look, there are still a lot of absentee votes out in Fairfax County. We talked about that earlier. I talked again to my guy that works inside Virginia politics, and he thinks that the final tally there might be something like Joe Biden winning the state by 2 or 3%. So still a lot of votes in northern Virginia.
The president's won the election for the presidency of the United States. We said that before with Hillary Clinton when it was 1.5 up, and there you go.
Jay, it was 5.5% last time.
Yep. Yeah. And we said it's exact, and that was with Tim Kaine on the ticket. We said, so here you go. It's just, again, Wes, the numbers don't lie unless they manipulate them.
Yeah. And no matter how hard they wish and try, the numbers don't lie. I mean, that's the fact. I was listening to television this morning, and I heard a Democrat pundit say that Donald J. Trump has divided America. And I thought to myself, in fact, a divided America 4 years ago is what got Donald Trump elected, because people are tired of the bias. They're tired of the political shenanigans. They're tired of certain career politicians.
I'll tell you what we've got. We've got a lot of people watching on Facebook and Periscope and our other social media platforms. Are we also on our website too as well, Will? Yeah. So people are watching. So we want to encourage you to do this. You know how to do it. Share this feed with your friends. That gets more people involved. And we're taking your call as well at 800-684-3110. Let me get some Arizona numbers in, and then we're going to talk to Kelsey. So, Kelsey, hang on the line 1 minute. We're going to get some current Arizona numbers up for you, and then we're going to do it. Let me give you a sense of what I think is happening right now. There were some reports that that Pennsylvania stopped counting the mail-in ballots about 30 minutes ago. I've not had that. I think Fox said it. My brother let me know that. I don't know if have we been able to verify that at all, Will?
I've not seen verification of that.
Has the Secretary of State said it?
Not that I've seen.
Okay. Because believe me, she's saying a lot of things, as we know. Andy.
Yeah, she is.
She's saying a lot. So, because, look, we drafted a letter yesterday that there's a letter that went out yesterday from the Republican Party in Pennsylvania pointing out the irregularities that are already taking place in the way that they changed even what they represented to the Supreme Court as far as keeping what's called the status quo. So if have to, we'll litigate there. I still don't think it's going to be necessary. It may not even be necessary state. We'll see. But right now, we're going to get the president is down in Arizona right now by 200,000 votes. Let's go to Kelsey. Kelsey, go ahead with about 75% reporting.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Thank you so much for reporting real numbers.
Yep.
We turned everything else off. I can count on one hand the Biden-Harris signs that I've seen here, so I'm pretty sure that Arizona is going to stay red. I don't think that's anything we have to worry about.
I'm having our people dive deep on that, Kelsey. Now, where are you calling from in Arizona?
Glendale.
Okay. So your area probably is going Republican. Will, are we looking deeply at the numbers in Arizona right now?
We are. We're looking at the counties and seeing where they're coming
because
in.
There's a 200,000 vote spread with 75% of the vote in. So 25% of the vote has not been cast. Do we know what the total vote cast has been? We'll get that too.
It's about 2.5 million votes have been counted thus far. I don't have the total vote cast yet, but I'll get that for you.
So 2.5 million votes have been counted. They're saying that's 75% reporting. So that means there's another 750,000 to go. Anything could happen. Interesting race there. Maine, surprising to me, I'm glad.
Yes.
Susan Collins is up 30,000 votes right now. And they wrote her off, Harry.
Absolutely. The networks wrote her off big time, but she is a fierce campaigner.
She is.
And as I understand it, she knows how to close the deal. Also, the people in Maine, they know Susan Collins.
Yep.
And I would also say that her opponent is a bit of a shaky character, and that came out in the campaign.
So I'm telling Andy with sign language here, not sign language, with eye contact, don't say it. Listen, Susan, we want Susan Collins to win. And he was one of the impeachment.
I wanted to win.
He was on the impeachment team for the president, so was not a fan of the vote for the I want more witnesses. Only 17 they had was not enough.
I was not crazy about that,
but she voted the right way.
And she voted the right way when it came. She made a beautiful speech. She did the right thing, and I wanted her to be reelected. And I want to say something else, that during the impeachment trial, I sat in such a position during where I was seated that I looked at the Republican majority in the face, and she had one of the most intense faces, took notes very seriously, and was really, and she was not just one of these people who was going through the motions to simply vote not guilty. She was listening to the evidence, and she's a credit to the state of Maine and a credit to the Senate, and I'm glad to see her doing this. Don't ever count Susan Collins out. She was very articulate in the speeches and the statements that she made. I'm impressed with her.
We got some new news from North Carolina. I still need to know how many are out. The president leads by 54,000. Is Tillis up still?
Going over to the North Carolina map.
We'll find that out, and then that's with 93% reporting. So it looks like the president's going to win North Carolina. It's close, though. I mean,
Tillis is up by about 70,000 votes, so he has a pretty sizable lead.
With 93% reporting, that'd be hard to switch it. I think it'd be hard to switch to 54,000 too. We'll keep an eye on North Carolina, but North Carolina.
Jay, don't you think those precincts that haven't reported the 7% are mostly rural? Wouldn't you say?
I would think so, but I don't know that. I want to know the answer to that. So let's find out where those are. Georgia still has not been called. Is the number moved from 37%?
It is not. It is still sitting around.
I got two Georgians here. Wes, what's going on here, Colonel Smith?
Yeah,
get down there and give them some orders.
They need that.
Yeah.
Once you get out of DeKalb, Fulton, Gwinnett, Muskogee, and Chatham and Bibb counties, the other 153 counties are solidly Republican.
Right.
I don't know why they're not calling it. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we'll see. Now, I think DeKalb has not come. Well, maybe DeKalb came in, but Fulton has not. They had a delay in Fulton.
DeKalb still has only about 1% reporting, so they are having some issues, it seems like, getting that vote.
But the president was up by what, 500,000 votes?
He's about 470,000 votes up.
Well,
it's going to be very hard to move 500.
Yeah,
you got to move 500,000 votes. That's a lot.
The other 153 counties, DeKalb can't overcome that.
DeKalb will probably not go for the president.
No,
but they're not going to be able to overcome the lead that he has.
Watch what it looks like. Well, I'm looking here on the screen, so I can't tell for sure on this. And those of you that are watching, call us on this and tell us. You're probably listening to us, but they are going. What I see happening now is panic over Virginia. So, Than, I'm watching these networks right now, and they are panicking over Virginia. That is what's happening right now.
And I'll tell you why. They're about ready to stop counting votes in Virginia. They're going to stop at 11 o'clock, even though they've got 400,000 absentee ballots to count. And they're going to restart tomorrow morning. So, Jay, you're not going to be able to call Virginia until tomorrow. So that's bad news for Joe Biden, because that is absolutely a state that he's got to win.
There is no way he can even have a pathway without Virginia. Impossible.
15 minutes away from stopping counting the votes there, though, Jay.
All right. Well, there you go. Alice is calling from South Carolina. We're taking your calls, 800-684-3110. Folks, we encourage you to share this feed with your friends. We're on a lot of social media platforms. Share it wherever you're watching us right now. We encourage you to share it. Let's go ahead and take Alice. Alice, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, great coverage. We're really enjoying it. So I had a crazy question. Why is Colorado voting on doing away with the Electoral College?
I think they're creating their own constitutional crisis, Harry.
Absolutely.
Because the Constitution has an Electoral College.
Absolutely. So
does it really? I mean, I had no idea.
So what they are attempting to do is to bypass the Constitution. They're attempting to bypass the text based on their own view of the world. I don't think that passes muster at a district court level, let alone at the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, Philly has stopped counting. We got to keep an eye on Pennsylvania, folks. Let me just say, keep an eye on Pennsylvania. I am concerned, as I have been with Pennsylvania, that they and Andy, they were up to no good. The whole way they changed that with the voting and.
Well, for good reason, too, Jay. I mean, look, I've said for weeks now that I thought the election would come down to the three states in the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Pennsylvania is obviously the one with the most electoral votes. It's also the one with the most, shall we say, Democrat-friendly federal officials. And we saw that this week, Jay. So I think it's where you have to look for shenanigans, but it's also the keystone state for Joe Biden. If he loses Pennsylvania, Jay, no matter what happens in Virginia, no matter what happens in Arizona, he no longer has a path to the White House. So look, I think you said they're about ready to stop counting votes there. I don't think that's an accident either.
Will, clarify what you, because there's some, I'm trying to read what you wrote me here. It looks like in North Carolina, there's some outstanding votes near the Research Triangle, which is probably why they haven't called it. Go ahead.
There's about 10% outstanding around the Research Triangle area, but
10% of the Research Triangle. Okay.
Right, and then about 10% in a lot of rural counties that are still to be reported. So I think that is why they're being cautious in not calling it, but the New York Times still gives North Carolina a 94% chance of going for the president. So it looks like they're being cautious with their call, but we will see what pans out there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays here, but I think North Carolina looks good for the president. So right now, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, the states that they thought they had a chance with, the Democrats did, and that was Florida and Texas and Georgia. None of that materialized. In fact, they had it, and again, we talked about the polling data, which was completely missed the mark. But right now, let's go ahead and put that North Carolina. Do we have a graphic on that? Let's put North Carolina up there. So right now, it's showing. I'm having trouble reading from here. It's showing 93% of the counties, 93% of the vote is reporting, and it looks like the differential is right around 54,000 or so. So there you have it. That's what the differential is about 54,000. With 7% in outstanding, probably too close for them to call. I get that, but very difficult to move that amount of votes, Harry.
I think that's correct.
But it depends where it is.
But I think there is a fair distribution of outstanding votes throughout the state. So that number, percentage-wise, is unlikely to move with only 7% outstanding.
Is there an explanation being given on why the Georgia vote has not gone past 37%?
So they have just started getting some more votes in, and they've updated the number to about 58% now. And the president still is a pretty commanding lead of about 400,000 votes with 59% outstanding. We're seeing DeKalb County starting to come in, and Fulton County has about 37% of their vote in. So we're starting to see.
Are there any of the rural counties still out? Can you tell that on the map?
What we see is some South Georgia down near the Florida line. We see some near South Carolina, like Burke County.
Out of those, I'm going to go to Georgia and
I can tell you that Burke County and those down around the Florida line are staunchly Republican and blood red.
And those on the South Carolina border are as well.
Yeah.
These are Republican counties.
So it looks like that election in Georgia held with a significant margin. I mean, 400,000 is not an insignificant. Is not an insignificant vote. So the question is now. I think Arizona looks tough for the White House, for the president. Statewide, McSally they're showing down 10%. So it looks very tough for Martha McSally to return to the Senate. But it also looks. Do we have an update on Michigan?
We do. So
why don't you put those numbers in there for me? Give me the update, and because I had a question on this. And I'm going to go to Than on this. The Michigan, assume McSally does not succeed and does not get back, and it looks that way right now with 75% in. Let's talk about the fact that if James wins in Michigan, Tuberville won in Alabama. Lindsey Graham did end up winning. Of course, Mitch McConnell won. So where do you see the Senate coming out on this, Than? Numerically.
So it's enormous. You start with the 53 Republican senators that they had this time around. You add the senator in Alabama for 54. If John James wins in Michigan, that pushes you to 55. So then in your hypothetical, if you lose Arizona and Colorado, which was Cory Gardner and Martha McSally, that drops you back to the status quo of 53. Now, Jay, the other two targets that Democrats were looking at the top tier were North Carolina and Maine, both of which Republicans are running ahead. I for one, I know you're not there yet. I, for one, think the North Carolina race is over for Tom Tillis. I think he's won it. The Maine race is not over, but numerically, Jay, that puts you at 53, and Democrats have to find 4 seats if the president wins to flip control of the Senate. That would have to be North Carolina, Maine, and their next most likely are probably Iowa and Montana. Jay, I would tell them, good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. Michigan has now got 38% reporting with James up 261,000 votes and the president up 242,000. What does that tell you, Harry?
Well, I think things are looking very good for both the president and John James in Michigan. That is a huge margin at this point in the evening. To be clear, 62% of the vote is still outstanding, hasn't been counted. And I would love to know where those votes outstanding are, whether or not that includes Detroit and its suburbs. That would be the key issue, because outstate Michigan is pro-Republican. So if it's Grand Rapids, if it's outside of Kalamazoo, if it's going up to the Upper Peninsula, Petoskey, and Traverse City, more likely than not, James and the president are in fantastic shape.
Which means that will, to go to Than's number, that will be the pickup of the Senate seat to keep it basically the status quo with the two that have lost. We've got a lot of you watching, and more are joining. So we keep encouraging you to share this feed with your friends on whatever social media platform that you're watching this on. We encourage you to. I have no idea how many we have on Periscope. Maybe somebody can let me know just so I could thank them as well. So what do we have? So we got Michigan. Texas looks like it's all clear. North Carolina, too close to call, but looks very positive for the president. Georgia, clearly, I think is good shape for the president. Then the question is Pennsylvania. Do we have any movement on Pennsylvania data right now?
We're at 39% reporting, and the president has 56.2% to 42.5%. That is about right at 400,000 votes up the president right now.
That's a big number. But now, depends on what they've counted. Than this goes back to what they're counting. Did they count the mail-ins first? Or then we got this report, which we've not verified, that they stopped mail-in countings. Then I've gotten some reports that Philly stopped counting. Period, or I think stopped counting.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
So some of this is going to go into, Pennsylvania may go in tomorrow. Now, whether it's necessary or not for an election, I'm not so sure.
Okay, so let's play the hypothetical game, Jay. Let's say you're in the Joe Biden campaign and you're looking at Pennsylvania and you think those votes are out there and you're going to close that gap. Let's say you also think you're going to win the state of Arizona. Jay, that only gets you to 263 electoral votes, 7 votes short of where you need. You still have to make your way to Michigan or Wisconsin to win the White House, even under that hypothetical. So, Jay, I don't think Pennsylvania is probably going to be called until tomorrow because of those outstanding vote issue. But look, if the president wins in Wisconsin and Michigan, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I think that's right. Now, I will tell you, you can see the networks are trying to focus everything, all their attention, at least MSNBC. I don't know about CNN. Maybe we'll switch it to CNN in a minute, to Arizona. Ignoring, of course, what has happened. Has Florida been called yet?
I'm not seeing the state of Florida called yet.
So some of the networks are putting up electoral college votes with the president behind because they've not called Florida. Or North Carolina. So this is whatever.
MSNBC is doing just that.
Exactly that. Yes. And then they're going into county votes rather than the state. And ultimately, of course, the statewide is what counts ultimately. But I get it. They're doing whatever they want to do. So it is what it is. That's why we are coming to you this way, and we encourage you to share this with your friend. Renee's calling from Michigan. Renee, you're on the air.
Hi. I'm just listening to Fox News, and you already mentioned about them stopping counting in Philadelphia. And now they just mentioned that now they're going to stop counting in Fulton, and now they're going to stop counting in Virginia. So we're not going to know any of those races tonight.
You mean Fulton County in Georgia? Well, they had some water main break issue. I think Georgia, look, the president's up almost 500,000 votes in Georgia. I don't see that. I don't see that switching. North Carolina looks like the president's still up 30 or 40,000, Will. And so I don't see that switching.
No.
And then Pennsylvania and let's ask Aaron this. If Pennsylvania let's assume Pennsylvania doesn't get called, so we don't have it as a number, or it doesn't go for the president. I think it will. And Arizona do not. How does the map look then if the president gets Minnesota, or it gets Michigan, Wisconsin, and, of course, now Ohio? All right, we're looking at that right now. I'm always looking at what are the alternatives. Than says he knows. Go ahead, Than.
If the president wins Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, is that the question? Or if Joe Biden wins Arizona and Pennsylvania?
Well, Joe Biden wins Arizona and Pennsylvania.
Joe Biden would get to 263 electoral votes, and the president would have 275. Of course, that includes both the Maine 2nd District and the Nebraska 2nd District that he won last time. But even if he lost those, Jay, it would be 273 to 265. Joe Biden has to win Arizona, he's got to win Pennsylvania, and he's got to win one more state, likely in the Rust Belt, probably Wisconsin or Michigan. But Arizona and Pennsylvania on their own, Jay, they're not enough for Joe Biden.
Wisconsin very close. President's up with 41% reporting. He's up 30,000. And I don't know what areas of reporting.
There's actually updated numbers below that with Wisconsin. It's now 54%. He's up 70,000 votes in Wisconsin.
I see. I'm sorry. I see that now. So in Wisconsin, it's increased to 70,000 votes. President with 82% reporting in Ohio. The president is up 363,000 votes. Andy, not likely that.
No, I mean, if you count every mouse in Ohio, you're not going to get that number of votes to overcome that lead. I don't care what you do. It ain't going to happen.
So now Fulton County in Georgia not counting is going to affect the Georgia results tonight because that's a big county.
They won't
Metro Atlanta
call it, perhaps, yeah, but
there's no way.
Right.
I mean, it's
not going to change the outcome.
It's not going to change the outcome.
Yeah.
There are not enough Democrat voters in Fulton County to change the outcome.
And you've got to look at Fulton County. Fulton County is 70 miles long, and the northern part of Fulton County, Johns Creek, Roswell, places like that are very conservative.
They are conservative.
The southern part of Fulton County, Palmetto, places like that, which are very conservative. Part next to Coweta, next to Fayette. The names will tell you how conservative they are. It's the central part of Fulton County, which is the heart of the city of Atlanta, that is going to give you the votes for Biden. But
so
even
you're a linguist, and you could, because Andy is a linguist, you could figure out based on.
I can name you every 100. I can tell you the name of the county, whether they're conservative. I can tell you whether or not the name of the county is going to Indian, or Choctaw, or Creek, or whatever.
Okay, in the county.
Right. So. Yeah. So the president's right now with 62% reporting in Georgia, up 323,000. So let's look at what the key states that we've got to keep a look at. Texas looks like it's done, right? Cornyn won. It's done. Is there much left to count?
There's 83% counted right now, and the president is up by just about 440,000 votes in Texas.
Okay, so I want you to think about this. But this is a good point to share with your friends right here. So share this feed, because I want to say something about this. The president is up in Texas by almost 500,000 votes. Okay, now it's a big state, a lot of electoral college votes. But it's 500,000. They were projecting. Understand this. The polling groups were projecting the president was going to lose Texas. He was going to lose Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia. And, of course, Pennsylvania. Now, last count we had, CNN pulled back their call of Virginia. And in Florida, the president is still up 440,000 votes, and they are saying too close to call. It looks like the latest with North Carolina, it looks like the president may be up 70,000 votes. According to what I just saw flash on the screen. Yeah, about 70,000. So that looks like that's going for him. I'm just saying, the point I'm trying to make is, here we are looking at this. At East Coast time, it's 11 o'clock at night. And at this point, they still haven't called Florida. And they have not called Georgia. And they've not called North Carolina. So, I mean, but they had a recall. They did a recall on Virginia, which then you still don't think the president probably wins. But they felt like they had to recall it because it was way too close for them.
Well, because the president's ahead right now, Jay. I mean, I don't think he's going to win it in the end because of all those absentee ballots out there in Northern Virginia. But I think probably a 3% win for the vice president is probably a reasonable bet here. And when it was 5.5%.
I'm looking right now at MSNBC, 192 electoral votes for Biden, 114 for President Trump. Now, I want you to add Florida, Georgia, North Carolina to those and see what happens.
28 plus 16 plus 29.
And Texas.
Okay. So there you have it. So Jordan, you're going to come back on in. Okay, we're making a little switch. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. Okay. We're making an audible call right here as we continue this coverage. Share this. Okay, Andy, you can have my seat. I'm going to take my mic off, and then Jordan, you.
I was, monitoring the other news. They clearly don't want to call this tonight, right?
Right.
Even Fox.
Right.
They want another day of
ratings,
and I guess they want the riots to start because that's what they're doing. They're like egging that on because Donald Trump's clearly winning. And they're going to stop counting votes at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Like, these poll workers get paid overtime. They probably want to keep counting votes.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we're going to be figuring out on our broadcast for you right now. Keep sharing it with your friends and family. Because the question is, Philadelphia and Fulton County don't want to keep counting votes. Does it even matter? I think we're going to know that maybe in an hour. Because we might not have to have definitive calls in either of those places to declare a Trump victory. I mean, I'm going to go around the horn right now, and I want to start. I'll start with. Let me start with Than, in Washington D.C. Than, just give everybody a Senate update. I've got a lot of text about that. Does it look like Republicans are going to hold the Senate, or do we not know yet?
I think it looks like Republicans are going to hold the Senate, Jordan.
So that means
think
impeachments go nowhere. So that's
right.
one tool you can take away from Nancy Pelosi, because it looks like Democrats are going to keep the House, or we don't know yet.
It's too early to call on that, and it probably will be for some time, Jordan. It just takes so long to count the votes in 435 races. But let me drill down just a bit on the Senate race, because I actually think this has an opportunity to break much harder towards Republicans than I thought was even possible. It does look like the races in Arizona and Colorado are going to be won by the Democrats, but the race in Alabama has already been won by Republicans. I think John James is the clear favorite in Michigan right now. So, Jordan, if you just start there, you start at the status quo. That would be a Senate of 53 Republicans. And we went through this exercise just a few minutes ago, but how do Democrats get 4 Senate seats from there? You would have to win in North Carolina. They're losing. You would have to win in Maine. They're losing. You would have to win in
Fox
Iowa
News,
and
I'm breaking
Montana.
in, Than, because we finally got a major network calling Florida, thank God. I mean, geez Louise. Fox News has called Florida for President Trump. So there you go. You knew that was coming. There was nothing left there vote-wise. There weren't enough votes the votes that were remaining. There weren't even enough if they all went to Biden. So Florida has been called. That's official from Fox News. They have not called it on MSNBC yet or on CNN. I don't know about the other networks. Let me tell you what I think, Than, and I'll go around the horn on this. I want you to finish your thoughts, though, on the Senate, because, I mean, we all knew Florida called. Georgia needs to be called. North Carolina needs to be called. I think, again, they should be looking at Pennsylvania and say, can really Joe Biden make these votes back up? Because, which if you know what I'm talking about, you know that's a huge place for he flipped it in 2016. He doubled his vote in 2020. He's killing it in Western PA in the Pittsburgh area, which means blue collars go with Donald Trump. Bad sign for Democrats trying to find a path to victory. I mean, he's got with 3 million votes in and 4 million remaining, he has a 56.5% lead. I mean, that is a 250,000 vote lead is tough to make up. But then back to the Senate, just so people know, you feel like pretty good at this point in the night, where it's midnight Eastern time. We're now into the next day. That the U.S. Senate remains in Republican control. That Mitch McConnell and Republicans did their job at least of maintaining control.
I do feel good about that, Jordan. I can't give you a number right now, but just to finish the thought, if Democrats need 4 seats after Alabama and Michigan go Republican, as I think they will, those 4 seats from there would need to be North Carolina, Maine, and probably Iowa and Montana, unless they can pick one of the Georgia seats off, which Jordan, I look at the numbers in Georgia, and even though one of those races is going to go to a run out, I don't buy that.
Is Purdue going to win? Is Purdue going to win outright tonight?
I think he's going to win outright. We don't know that yet.
That is unbelievable.
But it looks like he will.
It just shows you, Than, when you look at, I just saw Lindsey Graham as I was stepped out, again, I never thought I would have to be a big donor to Senator Graham. He's a great chairman of the Judiciary Committee, did a great job with Amy Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, and long history of the ACLJ, working on so many issues. It wasn't even like a partisan donation for me. He's just a great U.S. senator and a great representative for America. And they went after him. Think about, Than, if they spent that $200 million in, I don't know, Pennsylvania or Ohio, and maybe instead of John Ossoff trying to run again, some kid who keeps losing and losing and losing, they found a new candidate there and maybe made them raise their own money instead of all the national money and spent the money in Michigan and Ohio. I mean, how did Gretchen Whitmer? She got elected in the midterm, and these vote numbers that we're seeing, it's not done yet in Michigan, but I mean, it looks, she won by like 400,000 votes. The only person that could win like that right now is Donald Trump in Michigan. Joe Biden could squeak out something if like a ton of votes start turning his way. So, I mean, Thad, I just look at the allocations from the major parties. I mean, we're DC guys. You look at the DNC, the DCCC, the DNSC. They did it again. Yeah. I mean, the fact is they need to all be – if you're a Democrat watching this, I feel bad for you because the people running your party are wasting your money, your donations, on wild goose chases with bad candidates. With Hillary Clinton was a bad candidate, and Joe Biden embraced socialism and could barely get words out, and no one wanted him to be the candidate. And Kamala Harris looked like worse as a VP nominee than she does as a U.S. senator. And I had a lot of respect for her. She was pretty intimidating in the impeachment. I mean, she had charisma, and she lost it all once she joined the Biden ticket. It's like it was the ticket of no polls showed it, of course. No polls will ever show it. But if Donald Trump pulls this out and the Republicans can maintain control of the Senate, is this the biggest modern loss for the Democrat Party, Than? And then I'm going to go around the table. Would this be the biggest modern loss for the Democrat Party in at least their lifetime since the Democrat Party lost the South?
I think it probably would be, Jordan. And I would just tell you those allocation decisions and those mistakes happened on both the presidential level and the senatorial level. Let me just give you 4 states. You mentioned 3 of them, Georgia, South Carolina, and Texas. They were playing there. Let me give you a 4th one, though, Jordan. They spent a lot of money and effort in Kentucky trying to unseat Leader McConnell. Jordan, he won by 20 points. They should have been putting those resources and those energies into other states that both Joe Biden could win and maybe their senatorial candidate would win. And Jordan, look, this is something that both parties get guilty of. Campaigns on all sides get guilty of. But there's only one word for that. It's hubris. It's deciding to not play by the rules of the game and deciding to try to play by your ego and try to win in places that the voters clearly don't want you competing. And they sent a clear message in all 4 of those states. Those misallocations cost the Democrat Party tonight.
Reporting, and Trump is up 257,000 votes with 41% in. So there's only 60% out. And John James is up 275,000 votes. So they are working off each other exactly. And James is actually a little bit outperforming. And some of that may just be votes that counted and, again, percent. But that's what I was talking about. I'll go around the table. I'll start with Harry because he's from Michigan. But Harry, I look at James being up maybe a little bit more than Trump. It's like they both helped each other. John James needed Donald Trump's coattails. And honestly, Donald Trump is probably benefiting a lot from John James.
Absolutely. And I start with one statistic, and that is Macomb County, Michigan. That is a blue-collar district just outside of Detroit. Trump is winning by 60 to 65% in Macomb County. And so he is killing it in important counties so far, and I believe John James is doing the same. So that bodes very, very well for President Trump going forward.
Okay, Andy, I mean, just your thoughts on this right now. I mean, where it stands right now is that if I was a fair network, I'd give it another hour. I think it's a little weird with Fulton in Philadelphia. I'd be pitching a fit about that. It's 11 o'clock at night. Pay them overtime. They'd love to work overtime, wouldn't they? In those cities, and especially during COVID. Pay them overtime. Let's get the election of the President of the United States. So, because that's going to give the network some excuse not to call it. But if you have guts, I won't use the other word, even though I can because we're not on a radio right now. But if you had guts, you would start almost calling this election. Look at Susan Collins, only with 16% in, but that's the early vote. Whoa. And she's up 56% to 37% with the early vote. That's the vote that just came in. And at Joe Biden, in Iowa, again, they only have 55% in. So, I mean, if 55% is like 8,000, that doesn't even make sense. Unless he's talking about a county. Anyways.
He's talking about a county, I think.
I want to go to Michigan and then around because I think, Harry, Harry talked about Michigan. Andy, what do you? It's just like, I get that the media is probably not ready to call the election yet. That's fair, but to call who the next president of the United States is definitively, people can turn off the TV, know that there's not. But it is so darn close, and the numbers. In the past, they would have been looking at the trend and saying this is over for Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Joe Biden be conceding.
Yeah, in the past that would have happened.
He'd be trying to do it while people were still watching.
I want to take up a point that you said. Why are you putting your resources in places where you know you're not going to win?
I know.
And that's the stupidity of it. You're going after Leader McConnell, Senator McConnell. What do you think? Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. And one of the things that's personal to me is that you take a person who's never had in Georgia, John Ossoff, who lost to Karen Handel in the 6th District, who didn't even live in that district and couldn't even vote for himself, who's never had a job in his life, who comes from rich parents, who basically is a Marxist, a socialist in the state of Georgia. It's still Georgia, no matter what you say, and you put millions of dollars of resources to trying to defeat David Perdue, and he calls him to his face, Senator, you are a crook.
I mean, this guy's a billionaire, head of Dollar General. He's not a crook. He's a very statesman-like senator. He's not one of the most popular senators amongst like the conservative base. He's had challenges there before, and yet he's about to another Georgian. We've got 3 Georgians represented here, and let me tell you, I was nervous. I was at actually Bill Haggerty, by the way, a good friend of our broadcast, won immediately tonight. You know, he had a primary challenge in Tennessee, went Trump, this Trump country in Tennessee. I was at his victory event. It was great to see, to know that he's no longer a candidate, Haggerty, but he is now Senator-elect. Bill Haggerty of Tennessee, he's a great addition to the U.S. Senate. It's gonna be great to have him there. It's not a net pickup. He's replacing the retiring senator, another statesman, Lamar Alexander. But I will tell you, this is Bill Haggerty in Tennessee, who ran as a Trump Republican. He was the first candidate Donald Trump endorsed in this election cycle, and he won the minute the polls closed. And the Democrats put up someone who raised no money as a protest vote that he would try in places like Tennessee. So, I mean, you were seeing there that, like, again, but we were all a little nervous about Georgia. Georgia used to be that way for Republicans. I was there in Georgia in 2002. And so Clinton won it again in 92. So it wasn't done after, like, Jimmy Carter. There was a way to win Georgia as a Southern moderate Democrat because the governor was still always Democrat. And the statewide officials, the senators were all Democrats. Very moderate, would have no place in the Democrat Party now. None of them. But we came in 2002 as my first job working for the RNC, second campaign, and we ran a field program. We beat the incumbent Democrat governor in 2002, Wes. It was Roy Barnes. It was the first time since Reconstruction there was a Republican governor in Georgia, and the first one elected because in Reconstruction they were put in place. We beat Max Cleland, a triple amputee Vietnam vet, because he had gone so far left.
Yes.
We beat him. I mean, handedly, easily. It was done within 2 hours of the polls closing. And that had kind of been it for a while. It had been basically Republicans against Republicans in primaries, and you could kind of call it after that. Now, we saw some close stuff with Stacey Abrams. It's kind of closer tonight. I'm not saying it's never going to be in reach for Democrats if they find the right candidates, but the right candidates are probably people they don't like. It's probably not the leftist. It's probably people who would appeal to actual moms.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. The Democrat Party has been hijacked by leftists. And with most Americans, that simply does not resonate. There are some that are, as we call them back home, yellow dog Democrats. They're going to vote for whoever's on the ticket. But most Americans feel that they've been left out by the Democratic Party, including Democrats. And, you know, and I agree with Andy, you know, going and spending all these hundreds of millions of dollars in Georgia made absolutely no sense for the Hollywood elites and the Democratic Party. But think about it. Even if you give President Trump the states that we knew he was going to win, that he won last time, they went in thinking they were going to flip Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, and Florida. None of those appear to be happening. And then probably Michigan is going to be a GOP win as well. You know, it absolutely does not make sense except to say that the American people are savvier than the Democratic Party thinks they are. And I think when all the stats are in and all is said and done, Jordan, part of what's going to move this in President Trump's direction, and I think he's having a really good night and I hope he continues to have it, will be African-American votes, Hispanic votes, and Roman Catholic votes, all who traditionally tend to vote Democrat. But more and more, President Trump has won a lot of that population over.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at these states like Georgia, and they're talking about Minnesota now. Votes are finally starting to come in. The fact that Minnesota's not going immediately to the Democrats, I mean, they're in big trouble. They were in big trouble last election. They're in big trouble this election. They don't have a dynamic candidate. Republicans do, like him or hate him, but Barack Obama, same way. You have to respect them, right? Because they can win. Donald Trump showed that once. He's showing it again tonight. Barack Obama showed it to you twice. George W. Bush showed it to you twice. I mean, it does happen. Now, in Ohio right now, get this, guys. Whoever wants to jump in, jump in. 92% is in. Trump has a 430,000 vote lead, and they will not call it.
How can you not call it?
I mean, you could percent out that out of the 8% left, that there's going to be enough of a split, Harry, that, I mean, it's impossible to take. If that's 92% in, there's only 8% left. With a lead like that, you can't split. You can't find that many votes.
That is probably correct. Or at a minimum, Biden would have to win 95% of the outstanding votes.
Which statistically is not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also on Minnesota, even though Biden is up, that represents largely the Hennepin County vote and the counties surrounding Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Again, I'm just looking at these numbers. I'm looking at the specifics. I want to go to the phones. I'm going to take some of your calls now. Let me go to Daniel in Georgia right now on line 3. This is something that's really upsetting me too, Daniel. Welcome to this special broadcast. We're in the new day. We will be on Jay Secchio Live, by the way, today. I can say today at noon Eastern time, joining you. But, we got a lot of energy. We were ready as the legal team, still are. That's why my dad is out right now. He's not taking a break. Let me tell you who he's likely talking to. You can probably guess. Figuring things out, if things need to be filed, if maybe not yet. Why did Philadelphia stop counting votes? Why did Fulton County stop counting votes? And not just do what they usually do, which is they count votes right before we go to Daniel Andy until like 3, 4 in the morning usually.
What's the big deal about it?
I don't get it.
Why don't you just stop counting
votes? They're trying
votes?
to act like there's so many votes left that you can't call the state. But that's not the case because we see the percentage that's in.
Correct.
But Daniel, you're on the air with us. Thanks for calling.
Hey, you guys. Yeah, so, I mean, y'all absolutely nailed exactly what my concern is. I'm a Georgia resident. I live in Gwinnett County, and so...
I used to live there.
I did, yeah. And so during the governor race, it was a blue county. I don't know what it's done exactly tonight, but I've seen Trump signs everywhere. But my biggest concern is, we've got Fulton County, we've got Virginia, we've got Pennsylvania stopping before midnight counting. What's going to happen tonight, especially in Pennsylvania?
I know. This is why my dad is out right now. And we said, how are they going to try and steal this one? Because it's looking like a red wave. This is a little funky. I'll point it out right now. Let's point it out. So it happened within the last 45 minutes. Major cities saying they can't keep voting past midnight. Nonsense. These are cities that operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their employees would be happy to take another shift, make extra time, have it pay them overtime, and let's figure out who the victor is. Stan, I think it's because they are so scared they know who the victor is. And they're trying to delay it as long as possible, hoping that that they have some, even though Joe Biden doesn't believe in miracles, maybe that will come back to haunt him. Remember, he's mocked the president about miracles. Yeah, they're now hoping for some miracles. And, I think the party that loves to abort babies probably doesn't get one.
Yeah, Jordan, I think you're probably right. I suspect that's the reason, but let me tell you why that's so bad. When I was driving home from work today, I drove past boarded up businesses because they're afraid of rioting happening tomorrow if the election is in doubt. Jordan, there is an obligation on behalf of these state officials to do their job and do their job through the night if that's what it takes to give the American people an outcome that they stood in line to determine. They stood in line today and they cast their votes early to elect a president of the United States. The least these state officials can do is run their departments to try to get the American people certainty. Jordan, if we wake up and unnecessarily have doubt in the outcome, that is terrible for the American people of all political stripes. Now, look, I look at my map and I think I have an idea of which way this election is going. But I will tell you this, no matter which way the outcome is, if these officials inside these states can get certainty for the American people that exercise their duty at the polls today, they have an obligation to do it. And those businesses that I drove past that are boarded up, they are the ones that are going to pay the price if they don't do their job. It's time for them to return to their job, Jordan. Doesn't matter if a Republican or a Democrat does. They have to do their job because the American people have already done theirs.
Look at Logan. You want to come back in? Are we? So who's going to get? We can do it while we're live because we're getting late in the evening. We're staying on, folks. I continue. I mean, we're still hitting some of the biggest numbers of the night. I think people are sick of the networks. I will point to right now as the time they're trying to make the steal. If they can steal this election, it's by not counting the votes in Philly and a bunch of votes showing up. And a bunch of votes showed up in Fulton County, Georgia. These are Democrat strongholds like Tammany Hall. Andy, I'll go to you. I mean, you go to Fulton County and Philly. These are two places that the Democrats control every operation. They made the decision tonight not to pay their workers, not to bring in another shift, not to give Donald Trump a victory.
That's just leave to Daniel's call,
which is how to steal
from Georgia. Is what I said. If the president loses this election with the enthusiasm and the momentum, he lost it because it was stolen. Because by not counting these votes and by not doing your duty, you're leaving ground for fraud and mischief to occur. And that's exactly what's happening in this circumstance. Right. You sit there and you count the votes.
That's right. Hey, 1-800-684-3110. You want to hear your voice on the air? This is the time. Obviously, we're subbing in. My dad's going to be joining us back here in just a few minutes to take us to the top of the hour.
We want to kind of put our map up on the screen right where we think things stand right now. Is that? Do we have that? Okay, so let's check it out. Can we put it up, guys?
They're working on it. I think it's up on it's up on the screen, not on our big screen over here.
It's not up on the.
It's okay.
But people can see it.
People can see it. Yes.
I can barely see it. Is the problem?
Okay.
So you'll have to print it out for me.
Oh, there it is. Big and bold, and beautiful.
Okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Okay.
176 to 194.
So where we see it right now is that states that should be called. I would call. Why do we not call Georgia, guys?
Well, technically.
Georgia is because they have paused their counting. But how many votes are left there?
We'll look up to see the exact number there.
I think I called Georgia. I would call Georgia.
Arizona, everyone.
67% of the vote is in Georgia, and that's why we haven't put it on our map. If you'd like me to add that, we'll go ahead and do it, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could add Georgia. I think that they're not going. I think they're going to have a very tough time finding the votes there.
Yeah, we haven't called Arizona, but Arizona pretty universally is starting to get called. Fox has called it for Biden. A few others.
They called Arizona for Biden.
Yeah, they have called it for Biden.
What, did we see that, guys?
I've not seen that from the New York Times.
Fox just did it. I mean, as I was walking in, I was watching. It
does look like on Fox's map it is now blue.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the first state to flip.
It's the first state to flip. It's not a definitive state to flip. It's one that Joe Biden would need, but he really needs if he's got a Pennsylvania, if he's got a Georgia, if he's got a North Carolina. And that's why we think that even though Biden has an electoral lead because he gets New York and California right now, listen, Donald Trump, guys, we can mark this. He's going to win Montana, Idaho. We know that. So mark those. Put those in his column. He's definitely going to win those. And Alaska. All should be in the Trump electoral count. Those are not going to be. Those are not contested.
Some of the polls are still just.
No. Those are. But I mean, you could just. I just know that. I mean, everybody knows that.
Well, you could say this is our likely.
I want to say where it really is right now, and where it really is. So let's do another map it again. Let's mark Montana, Idaho, Georgia, and Alaska for Trump.
The pathway.
And I think Michigan is, what was he up? 400,000? 275,000?
Yeah.
Oh, in Ohio. Mark Ohio. Because I think that
some of them have called Ohio, I believe. Have they not yet? I think they've called Ohio.
They're scared to.
No, I believe Ohio's been called.
So I mean, and it's not on our. It's not on our
We
map.
haven't called it yet, but I believe the other networks have started to call
it is split whether or not it's been called by several different networks.
It's called. I mean, if they're even calling it, we definitely are calling it. So we'll do a new map for everybody in just a minute. Because I want to get you up to speed.
We have Virginia here for Biden. Virginia's been taken off the map by CNN.
Yeah, so take that off.
So maybe we take that off too. You got to get creative here and see where things are going. It's an interesting time.
There is no
Virginia
now. The only momentum it looks like that Biden had a move was in Arizona, and it maybe was because of a population change. There's been a significant population change there. So the kind of change they were hoping would carry them over in a place like Georgia, because Phoenix has changed a lot. It's had a lot of California people from California move in. So there's your one change, and you had a difficult Senate race there. We knew it was going to be a difficult Senate race there. So they raced to call that one, I guess. I mean, I would love to see how many votes are still outstanding there, because they called that like the Virginia, and then they end up not fully through. I think where the truth is, if you need to go to sleep at some point tonight, you can feel pretty good about where Donald Trump is. It's not over. It's not over, but you can feel pretty good.
And there's a likely chance we will not know, and they will not have called it in the morning.
Officially, remember, no one officially is networks calling it. It's not like the actual official election results take a couple of weeks.
Right.
But officially, they've made a decision. It looks like to take this into tomorrow. They have to, because if Philly and Georgia can't vote,
and they're not
going to
call,
count votes in Fulton County or Philadelphia.
Then they're not going to call those
huge states.
Yeah.
That even though I think you could put Georgia in the category, and I think you probably could put Pennsylvania in the Trump category, I would probably put them there. If I think back 15 years ago, 16 years ago, they would have been putting those states already in the Trump column.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot more aggressive. And probably.
They got burned one time, Logan, in Florida.
Well, one time, the Brett Baer, and then we're all talking about that. That's why they didn't call it. They called it because they said we personally had egg on our face.
You know what?
Showed, but then, they said, but we were right at the end of the day.
Right, and they're going to have egg on their face with America, because if riots start tomorrow, because it looks like Donald Trump's going to win, but he hasn't won, so let's go shut down the Philly voting center.
Yeah.
National Guard needs to be called out for that, by the way. I'd be scared to death if I was one of those workers, honestly. I want the National Guard there. President Trump should at least offer it. Same thing goes for Fulton County, where they're voting. Even though that's mostly going to be
jurors at that point.
There's going to be a lot of Democrat votes counted there, but they should be protected.
Yeah.
They should be protected, because the mob is going to show up there. And so I think, again, we'll re-update our map. We got a lot of calls coming in. Logan, let's take some of these calls.
Yeah, I think this kind of what we can answer what we think. Let's go to Cynthia in Tennessee. Cynthia, I think the question on everybody's mind, and I think we kind of have an answer for you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call. I'm a firm believer that Trump is going to win, even way before this started. But I want to know about how much time can we expect to pass before we actually know who won the presidency. I mean, I'm talking about after litigation and.
Okay, so we haven't gotten to a litigation point yet. There hasn't been a moment. Now, I will tell you, the stopping of the vote.
That's not good.
Are they filing right now to say, no, you can't do that? You got to keep counting? I don't know. That could be being done right now by the RNC. Federal courts stay open. The problem is it's late for federal courts. But will they, again, they can't delay that another day. So I don't know about the legal side yet, because we're not even done voting. You look right now, Donald Trump with almost over an 80,000 vote lead in Wisconsin, with more than half the vote in. I mean, these were the states that if he wins, he becomes president. And look at how they, of course, show the Electoral College. You'd think going to sleep if you're just watching MSNBC numbers that Donald Trump has like no shot.
Yeah.
But yet he's in the driver's seat right now. And voting is over. So this is just about counting. So if you don't like the way this is going, thank Democrat cities who can't just get their act together, keep people working a few hours. We all are. If you're with us right now, you're still working. You think they could go another 3 hours, so at least people, hey, we know who the president of the United States is going to be. Better for the stock market. By the way, the Chinese yen has fallen off the face of the map. You know why?
Trump. Donald Trump is
scared to death. I mean, it has dropped like it's worth zero.
Yeah, I think it's worth.
They're like in a depression.
It's like a 15 cents to the dollar.
Yes, Donald Trump has put China into a depression tonight, and they deserve it. By the way, after COVID-19, I'll be honest, they deserve to go through some real turmoil in their country, and their leaders deserve some real challenge from the people to be these communist leaders putting out viruses, whether they did it intentionally or not. Horrendous. Let's go back to the phones. Let's take some of these calls while we're kind of in one of these time periods where, again, I think we have to start making more calls than we're going to get from the actual networks.
We were very aggressive up front. Now he's got to take it easy a little bit as we head into now 11:30 on the East Coast. Let's go to Joel, who's calling online too. Joel, thanks for holding. In Michigan, we appreciate you calling in. Obviously, a very important state. What you got for us?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate everything you guys do there at ATLJ. You are awesome. I really appreciate what you're doing. But I got to say, my thought on this whole how Michigan is going, a lot of it falls on Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
There are polls that I've heard saying that she's at like 60% approval rating. no way that could possibly be true, but that's scaring the Michigan legislature. I was hoping, I'm still hoping for a decisive win by both Donald Trump and John James. By the way, John James 2024, I would love to see that.
Yep.
But
let's get him to the Senate first.
Right, but I think that I hope that happens. I would love to see him run for president in 4 years. But I think that Gretchen Whitmer, the tyrannical way that she has just run roughshod over,
and her husband violated the thing
here.
right away, with his boat, Joel. I mean, the thing is, we said it clearly. Rick Renell said it clearly on our show. I've said it clearly. We've all said. Joe Biden made it clear. Mayor Pete made it very clear. Nationwide shutdowns were on the table for Joe Biden as of 2 days ago with Mayor Pete, and Joe Biden didn't say that was wrong. So they were not just state shutdowns or city shutdowns, but nationwide shutdowns. What we are seeing tonight is that America can deal with COVID-19. Doesn't mean it's not serious. It is, but it doesn't need to be shut down. And we can still have a great economy. We can still have a great comeback fan. And I think that's the key. I hated seeing the cities boarded up again. I know they were doing it not because of COVID, but because of the potential riots. But I'm still nervous about. Remember, to me they were boarding up the buildings if Donald Trump won. They all kind of knew. It felt like in the bluest of blue cities that Donald Trump may likely win tonight, or tomorrow. Now it may be, technically speaking, because that's why they boarded their cities up, not because of Republican rioters.
Jordan, I can tell you firsthand, businesses in the district that we are in are going to open tomorrow if there is a conclusive victory for Joe Biden. They are going to stay closed, or if either Donald Trump wins or if it's a contested election, which again, Jordan, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but this is really, really important. The abdication of duty that is being taken place by these state officials is costing real people and real businesses their safety and security tomorrow. That's not a threat from me. That is reality on the ground. There are organized, what they're calling protests, Jordan, but there are maps with targets on them and people meeting with plans of disrupting and causing, I won't use the word violence tonight, but that's really the right word, Jordan. There are maps with target ballots so that the American people have the certainty that they went to the polls seeking.
So here's what we're seeing, by the way. I just want to update you, everybody. So in Iowa, the turn has happened in Iowa. 75% of the vote is in, and Trump is up by 13,000. First time he's now leading. But so it's starting to turn, the counties that are reporting, with a lot of the vote in. And so that means the momentum is with Donald Trump in another state that's very important, in Iowa. That could also impact the U.S. Senate because there's a close Senate race there with Joni Ernst. So keep an eye on that very, very closely. Michigan right now, Trump is up 287,000 votes with 48% reporting. John James is up 309,000 votes. Now Trump's up 22,000 in Iowa with 70% reporting. I mean, I just see that Iowa's now up to 78%. I mean, we're starting to see these numbers come in. This is when people start calling elections. I just get nervous when they start shutting down counting. I mean, I think I just get nervous. I want everybody to stay with us because my dad's going to rejoin us because I have a feeling that's exactly what the focus is right now. The shutdown of voting is their attempt to steal this. We're not going to let that happen. And by the way, those workers should have been allowed. They should have been paid overtime, brought another shift. They should have prepared for this. They knew the numbers were big. They want another day. They want.
Yeah, in
they
Georgia,
want the riot. It's like they want
at
riots
6 in the morning.
It's like they want riots. I mean, they want to. They want to keep the country on edge. They want the stock market on edge. Yes, because they are praying for a miracle. The problem is they said miracles don't exist. That's what Joe Biden said, and I think he's feeling that tonight. We're actually starting to see for the first time people from the White House. Now, it's not current White House officials, but Sarah Sanders, who works for Fox News now, is outside the White House speaking about it. And this is the first time I think we've seen anybody. I know we've had guests on our show in the White House, but, start to think. I mean, you have to wonder now, does the president come out at midnight, 1 a.m. when they do this kind of stunt?
I don't know.
Do you need to make a statement like we feel good, we feel strong? I don't know what's going to happen there. Joe Biden, he's probably asleep. or at least he's in his his basement somewhere. But I'm looking at these numbers; they are disastrous right now for the Democrats to try and win this thing. But Dad, we were just talking about this. Their steal is on in Philadelphia and Fulton County. Yeah. So what's going on there, and why did they decide they can't keep working past 11 o'clock at night?
And listen, that's why I've been off air for
in a major city.
Yeah, so they really should not be doing this, and I will tell you that I'm looking at all options.
Yeah, like can you take them to court to say reopen?
We're looking at that right now.
Yeah.
So
if there's a court open right now,
well, but there are court. You file an emergency TRO, you get it. Now the question is how outcome determinative this is. So
they won't call it.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to be able to. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to get them to compel them to call it, but that you certainly can compel. But what you can compel, I think, is they're supposed to vote, and they're supposed to count. I mean, people vote, and then you count the vote.
And I'm worried about the people there because now these are going to be targets.
Well, now here's the problem: how are they securing these ballots?
Yes, who's there tonight? Do Republicans get to put their own militia in with Democrat militias to protect things? I mean, seriously, do I trust the Philly police? No, they're Democrats. Do I trust the Fulton County police? No, they're Democrats. Well, now most of the votes they'll be counting there are Democrat. Well, but I'm worried is that they stuff in another 100,000.
All right, look, I'm waiting for some calls on this. So here's the problem: when you look at and this is an analysis you're not getting elsewhere. So we encourage you to share.
They never say that on national TV.
No, but I'm going to tell you right now. Here's the problem.
Also took them 3 hours to call Florida.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they finally did. But here's the problem: you're allowing mischief because who's securing these ballots tonight? Who is going to actually secure them? I'm talking about physically securing the ballots. Where you just you lock the door and you say, okay.
And what happens if it burns down? Because rioting. Because Philadelphia's been having riots. Why is the National Guard not there at least?
Well, and the Department of Justice has got monitors too. So obviously, I'm working on this.
Yeah, I mean, it just stinks.
Well,
I will tell you,
it just allows. These are things
in the two places it happened. It stinks the worst. It's Fulton County, Georgia, is a Democrat stronghold, and Philadelphia, the most corrupt of corrupt.
Yeah, and what I'm worried about is, and this is what the lawyers are worried about, is how do you secure this? Mm-hmm. What is the method upon which you secure these?
Lockbox.
Well, not a lockbox. You have to have people there, and that's people from each side.
Yes, you have to let them in.
Biden people should be there, and Trump people should be there. Night. And there should be secured personnel
Probably
there.
like National Guard.
Right.
I mean, this is a U.S. presidential election.
National Guard are under the direction of the governor.
Yes, but they could call them in.
Yep. So they can call them in, and you how do you I want to know right now in Pennsylvania, how do you secure
Philadelphia's voting center?
Yeah, how do you secure
that massive place we've been seeing all day?
How do you secure it?
It looks like a warehouse anybody can walk
around.
But how
do you secure it?
Yeah, right. You can't.
Andy, you're a law enforcement guy.
Unless you were planning for this.
How do you secure this?
You put the National Guard out, and you
have monitors in there.
And you have monitors in there, and you do everything that you have to do to secure it.
Of course not.
But you don't just walk away and leave ballots unattended. I mean, that's just not the way you do it.
This is I've never seen. I mean, it's not that late in America.
First of all, folks, it's
a
quarter
lot of
to
Americans
12.
Work
okay,
a lot later than midnight.
Like
they
doctors
work shifts.
and nurses and pharmacists and
go to the
lawyers.
gas station right now and go to the farm. Yes, and everybody and people with kids, moms and dads. This is again. I think that you have to understand. This is the steal. I don't think it will work, but I think it's.
What is I want to know what the situation is in Pennsylvania right now with votes. Philadelphia stopped. Have other counties reporting?
What's the vote count in Pennsylvania? We can get an update. Now, I think other counties.
And folks, we encourage you, Logan. You want to tell people while we get this data how to share this?
Yeah, you can share the broadcast. You're on Facebook. We're going to be going for at least a little while longer.
So make sure to share it like this. Trust me.
Click the share button if you're watching on Facebook. Retweet if you're on Twitter. And give us a call, 1-800-684-3110. I know a lot of you guys have been on hold for a while. We're going to go ahead and take some phone calls here in just a little bit.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take one, Logan. Let's go to Donald, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Big win there for Lindsey Graham. Not a
Do we have
surprise.
the percentage on that?
I don't know if there's surprise.
Before we get to Donald, I want Donald to say later. The president is up 500,000 votes
in Pennsylvania,
with 50% of reporting in Pennsylvania. Now, I got to tell you something, okay? As a president, hold it. 500,000 votes.
Right.
Finished the count. You were so concerned about extending it for 3 more days, you won't finish it today.
Because you know.
Now hold on here. How in the world are these areas secured? You want to talk about voter integrity?
Yeah.
This is voter integrity.
No, it's voter fraud.
Well, the potential for voter fraud. I mean, look, you got who's securing these areas?
If you look at that number, what you just said of 500,000 votes with 50% reporting, That's almost statistically impossible to come back from. You cannot find that many votes out of the 50% left. Even if it narrows down to 100,000, you're going to have 100,000 vote victory there. Okay? Past elections, even after Florida, they would have called this. They would have said, okay, Philadelphia wants to count them tomorrow, fine, but it won't matter. It's like absentee votes that they don't count yet. Yeah. Donald Trump is winning this election right now. And they don't want to admit that.
Friends of mine that are my co-counsels in cases and other cases said this: don't you think stopping the count in Philadelphia is an act of bad faith and violates the court-ordered extensions?
Yes.
Because all of those court-ordered extensions were premised on the status quo being met. That was John Dowd. And the status quo being met and the status quo being kept. And they're not keeping the status quo. They're shutting down think about what we're talking about here. How do you physically, you've been involved in elections, campaigns. How do you physically, Andy, you're a government lawyer.
I know. You're huge. Have you seen the elections? It's been on TV all day, the Philadelphia one. It's a gigantic warehouse of people, and the poll watchers weren't even allowed to get close enough. To secure a building like that, you need a small army. Really, especially in this kind of election where everybody's worried that we're having like a war. I mean, is the war breaking out? By the way, I'd like to hear people too. I mean, like in major cities, are riots happening?
Well, we went to our phone call with Donald in South Carolina. Let's let him maybe.
Yeah,
say
I do want to
something.
talk South Carolina because that was another one, a joke by Democrats where they made Lindsey Graham spend like $100 million. But the Democrats,
Lindsey Graham
Donald,
said this is the worst ROI in American history.
Yes, the Democrats, Donald, spent $200 million. So they spent 2-1 against Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham still had to raise way too much money and for that race. But the Democrats, think about where, Donald, they could have put that money when they look at these vote totals. Maybe nowhere because they're getting beaten so bad. Hey, Donald, you're on the air.
Well, let me just tell you. First of all, I'll just tell you up front, I'm an African American, and I voted for Senator Graham, and I saw Jamie Harrison get tons of money, got $100 million over a weekend. But let me just tell you everything. I think fans set it up a few minutes ago. They are setting this up so that the riots can happen. And let me tell you what I'm looking at right here. Let me tell you what I'm looking at right here on my phone. I see all these states where obviously Texas, Wisconsin, Michigan, all these places should be in the column for Donald Trump. Right now, Joe Biden is sitting here on my phone at 209, and Donald Trump is at 118. And if they shut down, most people will go to bed tonight. And when we wake up tomorrow morning, if somebody starts talking about the president is winning the election, then that's when the riots start, because they said that they're stolen it, because they've got Biden at 209. All he needs is 61 more. There's no place on him for him to get them. But Washington they call early, Oregon they call early, California,
right?
Colorado.
They're going to let your cities burn down. Is the that's where they're going to do. They don't. They boarded up and evacuated the liberal bastions. Right? They want the riots. Another place. I do want to make this call because I've already called it. We've already called it, but now Fox News has finally called it. Ohio. This used to be the state. If you want this in Florida, Than as a Republican, you could turn off the TV usually because you said, okay, you won.
Nation, so goes
now
the nation.
Donald Trump looks like he lost to Arizona. That was one that Republicans usually do win. But that's been the only surprise of the night for Biden right now, and that is not much of a surprise. It's just not big enough state. I'm not happy about it, but I mean, I'm a realistic person. Donald Trump has now won Florida and Ohio, and he's winning in Michigan, Pennsylvania. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Jordan. I'm not ready to put Arizona in the column yet. I'm really not. There are votes out in counties that are going to break hard Republican. But even if Joe Biden won that one, you're right. Florida and Ohio typically mean the election has been won by whoever carries both those states. President Trump has now done that. Jordan, even in that hypothetical, though, you're down to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and you have the president with leads in all of those states. And again, I'm going to come back to this. They are our communities. My community that I drove past with boarded up windows, the community of voters who stood in line out to cast their votes today, who are going to be boarded up tomorrow if these election workers and these election officials, like, by the way, the Attorney General in Pennsylvania who predicted the outcome before the ballots were cast, Jordan, it is their job to finish the vote count tonight. Otherwise, it's our communities who are going to be the ones suffering violence tomorrow.
Exactly. You know, by the way, we're talking about South Carolina. Lindsey Graham, this race, one of the most expensive. The other, Montana, we're still not getting numbers from yet. I think President Trump is safe in Montana easily. But there was a close Senate race there because you had incumbent senator versus incumbent Democrat, kind of moderate governor. Have not seen any real numbers out of Montana yet at all. I don't know if that's just slow reporting or if that's I'm not sure why. It shouldn't be that hard to get the votes out of Montana. But Lindsey Graham out of South Carolina, this was the I think second most expensive Senate race in the country. In a red state that Donald Trump won immediately, Lindsey Graham is up 250,000 votes with 63% reporting. I mean, the Democrats just waste money. It's like it'd be one thing if he won by 2%. But again, John Ossoff has lost. Again, someone tries to take out Lindsey Graham. Again, they tried to take out Than. They tried to take out Mitch McConnell. Loss. You cannot take out strong Republicans in red states.
It's just not good strategy, Jordan. I mean, there were winnable states. Look, I said on our broadcast just a couple of days ago that the Senate was a 50-50 proposition. And you know what? The Democrats might have had a chance to take over control, even if President Trump wins, had they allocated their resources in the proper state. But they spent money and time in South Carolina, in Georgia, in Kentucky, trying to unseat Leader McConnell, which failed miserably. That race in Montana, Jordan, that is pretty close right now. There's about 50% in. Looks like it's a 51-49 race. Steve Bullock narrowly ahead of Steve Daines there. But look, I think it was an allocation mistake. And I will tell you right now, I'm still confident that the Republicans are going to maintain control of the United States Senate, maybe adding that seat in Michigan. And by the way, as I look at Maine right now, Jordan, I think Maine's got a great chance of staying Republican as well. And I still believe that the North Carolina Senate race is over. I think Senator Tillis has been reelected.
So Senator Tillis reelected. You think Susan Collins, you think, is going to be reelected. You think it's close. Do you see Congressional District 2 in Maine? I mean, because we're not getting a lot of calls out of Wisconsin and places like that yet, but it's very telling about those states. Is that going red?
Yeah, I don't have the specific data for that district, Jordan, but if I just look at the statewide district and Susan Collins running 11% ahead, that congressional district is the most favorable by far to Republicans. Donald Trump carried it last time. So if that margin for Susan Collins holds, I don't think there's any way that the second district would not be won by the president.
All right, let's go to the phones. Yeah, let's go back to the phones. Hey, Jennifer calls calling from California, I think with a question that a lot of people had. And look, we saw sort of maybe a potential blunder with Fox calling Virginia immediately like this. But Jennifer, go ahead with your comment. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, I was wondering, they called our races as soon as the polls closed on the West Coast. Yeah. They called all of our races in Oregon, Washington, and California. And there was only like 1% in one state, about 4% in another. And I don't understand that.
Okay, Jordan, you may want to break it down. Than, you can break it down. California, it's just, sadly, just a kind of foregone conclusion where the Electoral College is going to head for them. The electoral votes.
The electoral votes are going, but I mean that doesn't mean we know where the House seats are going. That's the difference.
But they can call it immediately for the
yes, like they should be calling a lot of these immediately for Donald Trump, and they aren't because again they are the main. Fox News is showing their true colors right now. A lot of people have been angry about Fox News. They're showing where they're going right now under the next 4 years of Donald Trump.
Well, it was interesting. Now, Bill Hemmer, to his credit, just said...
is basically saying this is what's going to happen.
He said Michigan and Wisconsin go to the president. Job. If the president does not win Pennsylvania, the president is the president for the next term.
Bill Hemmer should take over.
Bill Hemmer.
Where is Michigan? Can we get?
He's the best.
He has done a
He's always been the best on Fox.
Tonight.
He's the best on CNN. Then Fox got him. He's the best there. And he's only a rising star still.
He seems to know every county.
Because he's been doing it.
Well, did you watch him compare to like John King at CNN, who I couldn't even follow?
Oh, they were pulling him off the air.
You see how they're doing this voting? Than sent this to me. I mean, people are in Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, one of those counties that stopped voting. The workers are carrying out the ballots in the sealed boxes, home, I guess. And they say the ballots will be sealed boxes. They'll be locked up somewhere.
Home.
Counted. Well, that doesn't know. They're going to be locked up somewhere in the county tomorrow. Stealing an election right there. Well. Zoom in if you can.
I want to know where we are. Michigan right now is 51% in, so it's not moved much, except the president's
forward that to Will.
Up to 300,000 win. Do we know what, like, is Detroit reported yet? Do we know that?
It looks like a pretty even spread from both the
Does
Detroit
it look like Michigan's going to come in tonight?
It's tough to say because they're at 50% right now.
What about Wisconsin? What happened to the days where we stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning to determine what the election was of president of the United States?
Well,
with all the technology now, nobody can figure. You know, it's amazing. We can land, as my father, may he rest in peace, would said, we can land a guy in the moon. We can't figure out how to count ballots.
Yeah, they figure out how to steal elections.
Donald Trump won the election tonight, and they're scared to death of reporting. Let's all be honest.
Yes, of course.
Unless they steal this, Donald Trump won the election, and they're in big trouble.
And in Wisconsin, with 71% of the vote in, the president is up 110,000 votes. So that's a big gap there as well.
I'm just telling you, I thought he won an hour ago.
I mean, you'd have to you'd have to get no votes for the rest of the
find the votes.
In Jordan's defense, 4 years ago, you called us the last time when all of us were questioning what was going to go on. So I have to defer to you this time.
It's over. It's over unless they steal it. He's up. Even the fact that he's up 100,000 Wisconsin with that few votes to go. The fact that Ohio's called, Florida's called, Georgia.
I think we need to be looking at Michigan and Wisconsin. We need to be giving very close eye to right now.
Did we lose any seats in the Senate? I know we lost a race in Arizona, but we picked up one in Alabama.
Right. It was a wash.
I mean, so is it?
And
just
we may pick up
Michigan. And so we'll have to see about Iowa, and we'll have to see about Montana, which are just not reporting a lot of numbers yet.
So in Iowa, it's
Trump is up. Joni Ernst.
Is she up?
Incumbent.
No.
Joni Ernst is up about 75,000 votes.
Okay, that's looking pretty good.
The incumbent senator, good.
That's a big number.
And
in
what
a place
about
like
Daines in
Daines is only 50% reporting, and it's like 51-49 the other guy. So very close.
I think we should go to the phones. Let's go to Kelly in Pennsylvania. A question that I'm sure a lot of people in Pennsylvania have right now.
Yeah.
Kelly, go ahead.
Kelly, may need you as a plaintiff. Go ahead. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for my call.
Yeah.
My question is there a way to get a court order to make these states, Pennsylvania and the other city that is not county votes,
see this?
have to count them?
This is my phone. I'm waiting for the call.
Oh, okay.
I am
not looking at you because I'm on my
very
phone,
concerned. No, I'm being not facetious, but I've got my phone here for a reason. Let me tell you something. They're up to no good.
Oh, yeah.
100% they're up to no good. I got in Virginia, they're walking around with ballots because Virginia is way too close for them.
Oh, Texas has been called
Can we
for
show
Donald
the
Trump.
Do we have the picture? Oh, breaking news alert. Texas was called for the president about 3 hours ago. Do we have that picture on the screen?
I just sent it to Aaron, so he's got it.
Okay, let's get that. I want to get that graphic. I want to see people walking in Virginia with ballots.
On the street. Could easily be accosted, by the way, because they're tweeting.
Were the police around them? No.
No, the reporters were tweeting it out, saying looks ridiculous. I don't even know
Make
if they're
sure that it's a
Where are we?
reputable
No,
source.
it's like NBC.
Where are we in Virginia? What's the situation in Virginia right now, Fan?
Up, by the way.
Fan, where's Virginia right now? Susan Collins is going to win.
Yep. Which means probably
Thank
Donald
goodness.
Trump won Congressional District 2.
Right.
Which is a big.
Stan, what do you think?
Vote. It's one electoral vote, but it tells a lot.
Oh, boy, it does.
In Virginia, 64% of the vote in. Donald Trump is still ahead by 2%. Now, it's the Fairfax County absentee ballots that you just showed. Jordan's got it on his phone. The ballots have been carried into the election polling place by officials. Jay, we don't know if campaign officials are allowed to be inside and watching over it. It will likely break very hard for Joe Biden. But again, let me give you these numbers again, Jay. People need to listen to this. 67% of the vote in Virginia, and the president of the United States is up, not down. He's up by 2% in Virginia, and they've stopped counting votes.
All right.
Okay, so
I'm going to take these next couple calls.
Let me just ask one thing on the Virginia, though. So, Fan, on Virginia, as it stands right now, the president's in the lead.
That's correct.
How many votes have been counted? What percent?
67%.
And they're stopping counting. And do we have that picture up yet?
Yep, there it is.
There it is, folks.
Fairfax
There's
County,
your ballots in Virginia.
Democrat stronghold of Fairfax County, and they're literally walking them out with like crappy boxes and crappy tape, and they said they're going to put them in a lock.
They're walking in a crowd.
I was joking about a lockbox. That's literally what the tweet says they're doing. This is a tweet from the local NBC reporter there. I think it's shocking to even like the probably like liberal reporters.
I want to say something here. I think
this is how you steal an election. They're stealing it right there.
The next person. I have to take this call.
All right. The next person, all right.
We're not on radio. We're a little rougher than radio let's go
to Jennifer in Nevada.
It's kind of like being on a podcast. And say, I have not used any bad language.
Yeah, you've done a good job. Jennifer in Nevada, you're on the air. Line 2.
Hey, Jennifer, you still there?
Jennifer. Yeah, they've been home for a while.
Yeah,
no, it's okay.
I'm here.
Go ahead,
Jennifer.
You're on.
Hey, I just noticed a few minutes ago they started to count some of the ballots in Nevada. That has at 1%, and Trump seems to be in the lead.
So
what's that 1%? Yeah. So you're saying in general, I think the comment was that it's not necessarily traditionally conservative, but it's seeing a more conservative wave.
Have they said anything about Nevada yet? Do we have any numbers about Nevada?
I don't think specifically.
It's under 1% reporting
it is
right
under
now.
1%.
It's 400 votes have been reported.
So it's just now coming in. That's a pickup, though. If Donald Trump wins Nevada, which I don't know if he will based off 1%.
But she's seeing in her local area that it's definitely becoming, and we've heard that now, especially with all the lockdowns and the casinos being shut down and the restaurants being shut down.
The last thing they want is a president who said, his advisor like Mayor Pete, that a nationwide shutdown is on the table if you elect Joe Biden. I think what you saw tonight was a rejection probably of socialism, definitely, and a rejection of lockdowns. We're stronger than a virus. We always have been. We are stronger than polio. We're stronger than the flu. We're stronger than cancer. We're stronger than HIV. We're stronger than AIDS. We can get through those things and still have a great economy and still be the leaders of the free world. But let's make sure this election isn't stolen. None of the mainstream, even Fox, shame on them not for showing those images out of Fairfax. That it's NBC local Fairfax showing it though, so it is some mainstream media local. Look at that, people. I mean, look at that. Those are votes being walked across streets in the public to some locker somewhere.
Like in
look at
long
this.
comic boxes. That's what they look like. You know,
and we know that there's rioting in these areas, and this is not a secure place right now. I mean, so this again, you're always looking for where's their steal. I feel bad saying about Democrats. I'm not talking about all Democrat voters. It's the party. The party is no good. This is the party that wants to abolish school choice, abort babies at 9 months. Maybe that's why they keep losing elections. They've lost minority voters now. They've lost Hispanic voters. They've lost black voters. I guess they didn't, overperform so great with women this time. Remember that? Joe Biden's going to win all of the suburban women. Maybe not. I mean, so again, now Fox is calling Virginia again for Biden, even though he's down 2%.
And Connecticut.
And Connecticut. Okay.
Just saying. I'm just telling you what they're calling. And New Jersey.
I don't even know why they like those. I would have just
those
called
are the 0%
yes.
ones. Yeah, New Jersey's the 0%er.
So again, if you want to call us, this is a great time to get your calls in. 1-800-684-3110. I want to check in with our White House friends. Let's check in with Rick. Let's check in with Pam. Yeah, I know, but let's check in with Matt.
1-800-684-3110 to have your voice heard on the air. I know we do have a call lined up right now.
Let's go.
Take it. Go to Texas, which just got called officially. Devonna from Texas, you're on the air.
Hey, guys. How are you? Well, I'm sure you guys are tired. But...
We're good. 3 hours in. We're good, though.
Yes. So thank you guys for all that you do. I just wanted to chime in and say, like, I have crazy concerns about what's going on with those stopping, like, they're stopping the vote counting, and that's just beyond mess up. Last year in New Mexico, we moved to Texas a year ago. There was a race in, I believe it was the House of Representatives between Yvette Harrell and Xochitl Smalls, I think is how you say her name. Anyways, Yvette Harrell, Republican, was declared the winner election night. And then overnight, they randomly came on the air and said that they found 4,000 absentee ballots.
We're all learners about falling asleep and things
Listen,
you're waking up to a different world.
Local small races, things like that happen. It's not always fraud, by the way. Sometimes they're very, those are races decided by 3,000 or 4,000 votes. And if a truck wasn't delivered correctly, not always fraud. So that person may deserve to win. I mean, in Virginia, they flip coins still in like state house races if it's like a divided race. So I mean, there's some goofiness goes on. But we're talking about who is the commander in chief, who is the leader of the free world. You don't walk the ballots across the street in Fairfax. You don't just leave the Philly voting center. I mean, my God.
Especially when right now 55% in. And
it's not that late in America.
500,000
Most
votes
Americans are up this late every night. Every night. With kids, without kids. This is like still prime times or the late night shows. Especially on big nights like this. Like if the Super Bowl was on, you'd be up.
Yeah.
So again, and this is I think probably bigger than that. Because Donald Trump is in
If
the
your
election.
friends are up, a lot of them are just getting home and share this
And think about the West
broadcast
Coast.
right now.
The West Coast right now, it is 9 o'clock, and they're hearing that they're not going to know about the president at 9 o'clock at night on the West Coast because the workers in Fairfax can't work past 11. I mean, they stopped like an hour ago.
Yeah.
And in Fulton County, Georgia, can't work past till 2 in the morning. I mean, these are 24-hour cities, Philadelphia and Atlanta.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, share this. Click the share button.
I want
and,
you to share. 'Cause
a
I
lot
think
of people are watching right now.
We should see some shifts starting to happen in the states that are still counting, in like Iowa and those kind of states. And I think again, if those go Trump, you could feel pretty good. I wouldn't put my Keep America Great hat on yet, but you could feel pretty good. You got.
Speaking of Iowa, President Trump does have a 92,000 vote lead with 89%.
89 it. And how's Jody Ernst doing?
I'll pull
we'll
that
check
up
that
right
out
now.
too. I mean, an almost 100,000 vote lead with 90% in. It should be probably called.
And is that 90%? That includes your mail-in?
Yes,
right.
that's all. That means there's only 10% left.
I'm just.
And he's got a
clarifying.
100,000 vote lead. So
Joni Ernst is about 70,000 votes ahead,
which makes sense. So Trump is outperforming Joni Ernst. Makes sense. She was in a tougher race but that would be a pickup, folks. Wouldn't Iowa be a pickup? Iowa's a pickup state like Nevada. Trump did not carry it. So I mean, this again. Think about that. We're on the cusp of a Trump pickup. That's been. Oh, or no, Than? Are you saying no? Iowa's. No, it's Nevada that would be a pickup.
Right.
Nevada would be a pickup.
We are reporting though that Wisconsin now 126,000 vote lead for the president.
The only way they could possibly win this, and I don't use it lightly, they'd have to steal this and start working even more than just Fulton and Philadelphia. But it looks like they are. Fairfax. Remember, now we're talking about Fairfax County. So that's 3 places. They're worried in Virginia, obviously, even though there's some they've called it, they don't call it, they call it, they don't call it. The news has done a horrible job. They have no reporters out, by the way.
At this point, call it. I mean,
you know what? Why do the major news networks have as many people on set as we do? They don't have anybody out in the field. Like, where are their reporters not in Fairfax? Why are they don't have reporters in Philly? Use the local reporters and give us an update.
Yeah, I think that's
The
probably
fact is, we're bringing you better stuff than Brett Baer's reading off his teleprompter.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his fault. I think a lot of those local affiliates are being called in, aren't going called in because you have obviously limited staff at a lot of those. You have a lot of reasons that
They all
you're
have
going out there.
affiliates. I mean, I'm just saying, like, why are we not now? It's Tucker
Now we're going to
Carlson's
Tucker.
coming in, so they're bringing in the people they thought they would bring in to kind of talk
Wrap it
probably
up.
about the outcome.
Right, and that's what they were saying. I think originally the broadcast teams were all planning on going to 1 a.m., so that's in 1 hour.
So they're
1
starting
a.m.
to shift.
Eastern. So you're starting to see who are probably the final team. Now, obviously, they are going to go all night.
And that's the opinion team.
Yeah, they're going to go all night. But yeah, you are seeing that. You do see that Biden wins Hawaii. They just call that.
Not a shock. I mean, see, I'm a fair guy. I'd put Hawaii, but give me Alaska now. I know Alaska's going to go Trump, so put that in with the votes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's some. I
The
know
deal takes
Idaho's
out of the lower
Idaho's
48.
going
Why-
against Trump.
Yeah, they've already called that one.
Did they call Wyoming?
Yeah, they called Wyoming.
But not Idaho. Even though they should.
Don't believe so.
They should call it. I mean, it's just. I think we're just at a point right now where the only option, President Trump has won the election, unless they steal it. I mean, he's got the numbers everywhere, folks, and I don't say that lightly. I just have the guts. Will you not use the other word of these guys who won't call the elections for real? Okay. The real election guys, you would call it. You'd say, you know what? They've lost Iowa. They've lost Wisconsin. They've lost Pennsylvania. They've lost Ohio, definitely. Florida, Georgia, every state they needed. They've only picked up Arizona. It looks like we're going to pick up possibly Nevada. And Arizona's not a big enough pickup for a guy who won over 300 electoral votes last election. If they steal this, Donald Trump is going to be the president for the next 4 years. And I think they're all having a meltdown because of that. And by the way, I did a thing on Parler for about 15 minutes. And it was with the Epic News folks and some of the Parler folks and Dan Bongino's people. We were saying this 2 hours ago. These numbers, if you're an honest person, and just an honest person, not even a Trump fan.
I'm having Harry Hutchinson come in because he knows obviously Michigan and he knows Detroit, and he'll tell you exactly where the president is up and why he's winning so significantly there. And it's
John James too is up like
but I mean it's right down. We got it right down to the counties. Now let me say this on what's going on here. They're up to no good. You got ballots in Virginia being walked on the street. You got no clarity. Right now, no clarity on who's in charge of the ballots in Philadelphia. There are reports that they're still counting, and there's reports that they haven't. Will, do we have any clarification?
We're still missing clarification because the reports do seem to be all over the board.
All right. We got Harry Hutchinson's coming in here, so just bear with us 1 second. He's going to pop up behind you.
Because
There he is.
that's okay. That's all right. Because we need to. Yeah, there he goes. So Harry, let's give me the current numbers in Michigan right now. Okay.
The chat.
Okay, so the president is up right now, Harry, 316,000 votes, so it's gone up. And James is up 339,000, basically the same, with 52% reporting. But you just noted a very important statistic. If the president wins Michigan and Wisconsin, it's game, set, match, regardless of what happens in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona.
I think that's correct, and it's very, very important to note that with 50% or more of the vote counted in Wayne County, Michigan, which includes Detroit and a number of working class cities, the president's margin is up by 13% vis-a-vis 2016. So that is a huge increase in support, likely means a huge increase in support from African Americans and other working class voters in Michigan. And I think the president will do extremely well in so-called outlying counties. And so I think at the end of the day, the odds favor the president probably by at least 70 to 80% in terms of winning Michigan.
Basically, you're 350. You'd have to upturn 300,000. You got to flip 300,000 votes.
It doesn't happen. I mean, they don't. This is the party that doesn't believe in miracles. It's not happening for them tonight unless they steal it.
And I think that is correct. And it's very, very important to focus on Wayne County, because if Biden was going to make up votes, he would make them up in Wayne County, Michigan. But he is not doing very well for a Democratic presidential nominee. I've lived there for over 50 years, and guess what? Often the Democratic nominee gets more than 70% of the vote in Wayne County. And right now, Joe Biden is lagging, and I think that favors the president.
CNN fan has just said, is this correct, that Arizona is not over, and that should not be called either?
Well, CNN hasn't called Arizona. I know the other networks have, but they have it down to 4 states now. And Jay, as I look at my own map that I'm making the calls, those are the same 4 states that I think are still in play. It's Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. So the late-breaking vote in Arizona will be heavily Republican. That spread is very wide, Jay, but it's going to break very heavily for the president. It probably, Jay, won't be enough, but I will tell you this. Arizona is far more in play than, say, Virginia, and yet Virginia is still called by every major network.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. Jordan just said this, and he's right. Let me say, we got to be really tough here. I mean, this is like for real, because let me tell you what they're up to. Okay, it's first of all, here's their problem. They're so obvious.
We won,
of course.
Donald Trump won, and it's now our job. We better be tough, America. Now, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about court. I'm talking about suits and ties. Talk about waking up tomorrow. Don't believe the liberal crap. He won. It's late. Most people will go to bed, think they're going to be confused tomorrow. People are going to be very confused that don't follow politics. But what the Chinese weren't confused, their economy is worth nothing right now.
Oh, the yen is
because
fallen,
guess what?
plummeted.
They realized the numbers to show Donald Trump getting reelected. And what does that mean for the Chinese flu origin? We're gonna
future
destroy
index
them.
and the Nikkei are up like 3 and 4%.
Right.
I mean,
and
like
the
flying.
stock market's usually volatile now. They've already figured it out.
Of course. But you said this, Jordan. This is right. You know, we said we got to be tough here.
Look at this as a joke. I look at these maps and I'm saying these people have no guts left in the media on all networks.
Well, that's true.
And not even guts. It's just they all hate Trump. That's what it is. Even the Republicans on there, they hate Trump. And you know what? We've all had enough of them too.
So here's what.
That's why there's 30,000 people watching us right now.
Okay, so here's what you got.
Think about that.
Yeah. So here's what you got.
That's just on one of the outlets too that we're on right now.
Right,
That's not including our website or the other.
I will say this: the New York Times now is saying that Georgia is tilting Biden, so it was 63%.
How did that happen when they stopped counting votes?
Just telling you what they're saying.
And the president still has a 267,000 vote lead.
With how many
from what
percent
they've
left?
There's still quite a few percentage out, right?
About 21% outstanding.
Okay, no, that's not.
Well, I mean, you got big counties, right?
21% of the votes
But
outstanding.
why they had it at 90%?
So 80%'s in?
79% is in, and the president leads by 267,000 votes.
I mean, you have to. That'd be a lot of movement to move
It's a
300,000
3-to-1
votes.
pickup kind of situation. You're not going to pick up 3 for everyone. It's it'd be very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you got
unless you're stealing it in Fulton County right now, as we
where
speak.
they've closed the election.
Right.
So we better be tough.
But Fulton County has 71% reporting according to the
Well, then
county.
there's no way. How does he lose that? Okay. Then
They're saying right now 60. I'm just telling you what they're saying. 63% chance of Biden
Now, here's what's
winning.
happening. Their whole world, all these
David
media
Perdue
outlets
just won though.
Yeah,
I mean,
all their
and
media
it's
outlets,
very- yes.
and
They're
it's
gonna
all
have to rewrite
everything's
the night.
falling apart. Okay, because guess what happened? The president won. You know how it started? He won Florida. Let's be honest. He won Florida, and Biden thought he was going to take Florida, and then he won Georgia, and then he won North Carolina, and now he's winning in Wisconsin and Michigan, and this is not what was in their playbook.
Yeah, and he won Ohio. I mean, usually if you won Florida and Ohio as a Republican.
Where Jordan is right here, we got to be really tough.
We have won this election if we fight it. If we fight for it.
The fight that you do, and this is what, I'm not announcing my legal strategy on TV, okay? I'm just
late,
not doing
but
that.
not that late.
No, I'm not doing that. But I'm going to tell you this. Let me just be clear. To be clear, to anybody that's watching, friend or foe, we're not letting you do it.
No.
It ain't going to happen. We've been through Robert Mueller.
Your phony impeachment.
3 Supreme Court cases.
3 years of harassment.
And now, at the end game, now you're just in Philadelphia. We're too tired, and in Fulton County we can't quite count it, and in Virginia we're just going to have people walking on the streets with ballots.
We never minded people.
No, they never got
his tax returns.
No, we didn't have to do
and
that.
Obviously, the American voters really cared about that.
Obviously not.
Should we take the last calls?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Tony on line 3. Tony, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling from the 2nd District of Maine.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I just thought I'd share a little bit. It's kind of interesting because it's the most money that's ever been spent on a senatorial election in Maine. The dark money that came in from the nation was like way outspent any money in Maine. It was $100 million was spent on Sarah Gideon's campaign against Susan Collins. And
Trump just won Iowa, by the way, folks. That is big.
Okay, go ahead.
Big.
Yeah, so the other thing that's weird about Maine is we started this, the Liberals passed this ranked choice voting. So the strange thing is, like, there's 4 senatorial candidates, and if Susan Collins didn't get 50%, they'd have to go back and count, like, your second choice or your third choice.
That ranked voting.
Yeah, ranked choice voting, and they even did it for the president this year. It's very strange.
Well,
so I have a little question on the lighter side. I wanted to ask you guys around the table here, around the horn. What do you think about the celebrities who said they were going to leave 4 years?
They never do.
Yeah.
They were buying. You know what? They were funny. You'll see. Half the time they're tweeting they're buying a $14 million house in Malibu the same day.
They may leave California. That seems to be the trend.
I hope they all stay in California.
Yeah, that's fine too. I agree.
Please don't move to the no tax states.
But I mean that is the empty threat that always happens that they're going to leave.
11, so she's not. She's going to be.
That's big because they really thought they could take her down, the Democrats.
So,
and
let's
Joni,
these last
how is Joni Ernst doing? If Iowa was just called, Joni Ernst should be pretty close to being called too, right?
She's up almost 100,000 votes.
So she's going to win. Okay, so Than, let's go back to the Senate real quickly before we take the final 2 calls here. The Senate is looking like a possible net pickup for Republicans?
Well, they're going to pick up Arizona and I think Michigan, so they're going to flip 2 seats. It looks like they're going to lose the
Than, they're not going to win Michigan.
No. The Republicans are going to win Michigan.
Yeah, but
not Arizona. Not Arizona.
Right, that's where I was going. They're going to lose Arizona and Colorado, so that's a net of 0. The Republicans are going to retain in North Carolina, and I really think they're going to retain in Maine as well. You mentioned, Jay, that Susan Collins was up.
Because I'm losing the math here.
Yeah, what about Michigan?
They're going to win Michigan, which would be a pickup. Here, let me reset the stage for you, Jay.
Where does the Senate stand?
Right, please.
So you pick up in Arizona and Michigan.
What do we
lose?
Wait, but who's picking up in Arizona?
Sally lost.
She lost.
I'm sorry. Did I say Arizona?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's getting late. I meant Alabama.
Okay, there you go, Alabama. Tommy. Sweet on
Sorry about that.
You were throwing me there, Than, at midnight.
One of those A's. 2 pickups for Republicans, 2 pickups for Democrats. Status quo 53. That's where we're at now.
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
So that
is Virginia still counting right now?
No.
Or have they stopped the whole state?
It has not changed on their reporting.
I think the whole state's can't stop.
You know why it stopped? Because he's about to win.
Donald Trump could
or
win.
get so close that, as Than said, they can't stand it. It's too hot for them to count.
Can I say something about Virginia, Jay, real quick?
Yeah.
We're literally in the shadow of the Capitol. There are more election officials and staffers and experts in this area than any other place in the country. Both campaigns.
Joni Ernst won, by the way, Than. That's called.
Yeah, but they would have 0 problem, Jordan, finding plenty of people to count those 400,000 ballots in the next
So the
hour.
only Republican senator it looks like they're going to take out is McSally. I mean, I'm not happy about that.
And Gardner.
I don't think, and Gardner, those 2, which were the weakest 2. And we kept everybody out. They thought this was going to be their wave to take the Senate.
We were going to lose 5 seats.
Chuck Schumer ain't going to be the majority leader.
And they cannot pack the Supreme Court.
No packing of the Supreme Court.
All right.
There will not be a packing of the Supreme Court. Regardless of if they steal their presidential, which we won't let them. I will tell you this, folks. I mean, do you want to take these final 2 calls?
Yes. Let's take them quickly. Let's go to Lindsay in Pennsylvania. We'll wrap up with Crystal in California. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
And Montana's still in play, too, in the Senate race.
Lindsay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Luzerne County, and at 10 p.m. they also stop counting your mail-in
That's a
ballots.
Republican stronghold. That's a Republican area, right?
It's both right now.
But
Mostly
it leans
Republican.
It does. Lucerne County, Donald Trump flipped in 2016, and he was up huge tonight, and they stopped. But he won PA. I mean, let's be honest. He won PA. He won Ohio, just like he won Ohio. These states are so. But you look at these numbers. I'm telling you right now, folks. Donald Trump won the election tonight.
Oh, I think that's clear.
100%. They're just going to try to steal it.
All right, let's wrap up.
This is not a joke.
No, I know.
He won it.
Okay, let's get to Crystal.
He's doing the right thing, by the way. He's not rushing out there like they said he was going to.
Right.
But pretty close you should. Almost.
No, don't encourage that.
I would like to. Because the American people would like to know.
He doesn't have to. He's won the election.
I mean, some of our friends who are advertisers on Fox News, they're going to commercials. I mean, so they're just like keeping this for commercial purposes.
Yes, but that's one of our friends.
Yeah,
I know, but it's just interesting to see
Yeah.
what's going on.
All right, go ahead. Let's take the last call, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up. I think that's a good way to do it. Crystal in California, you're up.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for your honest election coverage tonight. We had to turn off mainstream media. I'm calling you from Orange County, California. We love POTUS here. And, I knew the fix was in when they announced that Biden won Virginia. I knew that that was going to be a major problem with, mainstream media tonight. But I am really concerned about a rigged election. You
should be, because I just got a number. If this is right, Will, am I reading this right?
You're reading it correctly.
60% of the votes in Pennsylvania. The president is up by, ready for this, Harry? 623,000 votes. Now, you got to move a million
They should be putting up the check. President Trump is being reelected. Keep America great again. Make America great. But the voters out there,
most of them work tomorrow. They need to go to sleep.
I want to.
The president just gained another 3,000 votes, according to Fox News in Pennsylvania, with 61% of the vote. Now he is up 626,000.
Okay, we got a report.
They may just be reporting.
No. I got a report while I was, on the phones with various people that I deal with.
Yeah.
That
Generic, no name, no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
Great people.
That, in fact, that they had restarted some of the count because of the pressure, that they've restarted some of the counting. Or
maybe not Philly, though.
Yeah. I don't know about Philly, but here's I'm trying to figure this out actuarially, Harry. To move for the president with 60% of the vote and now 61%, right? 61% of the vote, and it's still counting. I don't know if I want to go anywhere right now. I'm wondering, we probably should, but how do you move 650,000 votes?
Fraud.
Right.
You can always go on Facebook Live in the middle of the night if you need to. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, you could.
You can't.
I think people will be asleep.
Do it like a selfie?
If you want to update people on
it's
something,
4 a.m.
People do that all the time if you're up.
Yeah, no, we can do that.
You think we're going to sleep tonight?
No, but I might like to take the tie off.
Some of us got to get to school in the morning, man.
You have to take the drive through right now. I might be a little jittery.
The tie is going off right now. Enough with the tie.
Okay, what, we got to do that on camera?
Yeah.
This is an odd moment.
Okay, no, it's not, because let me tell you, now I'm in fighting mode.
You just got this.
Because let me tell you what this is, okay? Let me tell you what this is. This is
I'm gonna take the headband off. No, never.
This is, first of all, the president, as Jordan said, the president has won the election clearly. Okay.
Yes.
Michigan and Wisconsin
and retain the Senate.
Retain the Senate. Beat back the narrative, and now they're trying to walk ballots on the streets of Northern Virginia.
Ballots on the streets.
And who knows what they're doing in Philadelphia? But let me tell you what it is. Whatever they're doing, it's not good. So.
Or Fulton County, or Fairfax County. There's no good.
So. What I want to know, and I guess there's no way to determine this, is Wisconsin still counting?
Yeah, they are.
Isn't that what we always did? Didn't we wait till 3 o'clock in the morning? Then we now know the president of the United States.
But now they're going to try.
Harry, you and I remember when it was black and white TV, and they did it. So they could do it for John Kennedy. They in 1960. They can't do it in 2020.
Because
do you think maybe that's
the
reason?
End of the Democrat Party. They thought this was the end of the Republican Party. It was the end of the Democrat Party.
Exactly
They're
the
gonna
opposite
split.
of what they thought.
They're going to split into a
Yes, it's
socialist,
the Socialist Party
and
and
then a farm labor party.
So Arizona's been called back by CNN. Virginia's been called back by CNN. Michigan and in Wisconsin, the president's leading. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it looks like stopped somewhere. Somebody supposedly stopped counting, and maybe they haven't. But apparently they have, although votes are still coming in. So you know what I think this is? Okay, this is theft by taking if you allow it, and we're not going to allow it. So with that,
you ready to wrap up?
well, here's the thing. I'm trying to figure out what we do for our friends tomorrow. I'm not. We have
a show.
We're live at 11.
Noon
Eastern. So there are a lot of you watching that do not watch our broadcast. So let me tell you what you need to do. First of all, go to the ACLJ website, sign up so you get our ACLJ information. Number one.
And you'll know
Number two.
They're saying Joe Biden is about to speak.
So what?
Okay.
What's he going to say? I feel great
maybe
tonight.
something you may want to hear.
What's he going to possibly say that's going to be relevant? I think I'm going to
He
win.
said I'm going to bed.
Then the president's going to speak probably and declare victory, which they all wanted him. They said he shouldn't do, but by the way, he can right now.
Because he did. But but here's the point.
Usually, by the way, the guy who lost speaks first.
Yes,
that is true.
Go ahead, Joe. Smart move again by a Democrat. I mean, this is like,
what? If you're ready to wrap, I'm not complaining.
Is it? They're going to honk the horse?
I don't know. Does anyone? Are they going to Joe Biden right now? Can we go into Fox News a little just to hear what they're saying?
And don't even trust me.
An hour away,
trust
I'm
me.
saying.
Don't do it.
Let's
You do
just say
not.
if it's an hour away.
It could be an issue. They can monitor it for us and listen to it. I don't want to get.
They're showing a podium.
No, let's not get them. Let's not show them on our thing.
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to say if it's like in an hour or because
he doesn't look like he's speaking in any time soon. He's going to
that's
say,
a
"I feel
podium
great
they've
tonight.
had
I
up all
lost
night.
Georgia, North Carolina, Florida."
He's going to do
Minnesota,
the John Kerry.
Yeah,
John Edwards. It doesn't mean anything.
No, but this is
Bush
where
won that night. Everyone knew it.
Yeah, but this is where
So
we
did the
got
Red
look.
Sox.
This is where we got to play. We got to play for real, and we got to play for real here.
Well, maybe he's doing it now. So can we?
No, we can't dip into it.
We can't go to Biden.
No,
we can go to the audio at some point.
It's C-SPAN has probably got it.
Like maybe
but
this
it's
is
not
good
on
place.
right
We
now.
can
So
tell
let's do.
people
Let me
to-
tell you what I think we should do. There's 22,000 of you at least watching on this platform and others. Sign up at the aclj.org and start getting information. That's number one. Number two, like this page and say you want to get alerts because guess what? We're going to be broadcasting tomorrow right here doing this again. Now we're on 900 radio stations tomorrow at noon and other times during the day in other markets. So what we're going to tell you to do is we'll be live here. We will stay on extra.
Yeah.
We could even go on earlier. I think the best thing would be probably to let it see how it plays in the morning. I can come on, like you said, on Facebook. Yeah, I can come on Facebook.
Speaking in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's going to be saying anything historic except for let the votes still need to be counted.
Yeah,
I haven't lost.
Check in with y'all tomorrow.
Yeah. So what we want you to do, though, is like our page right now. If you're on Jay Sekulow or ACLJ or Jordan, whatever it might be, like the page so you get the alerts tomorrow because this coverage is going to be – we're going to be covering this for real tomorrow, and you're hearing it from the people that are knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for supporting the work of the American Center for Law and Justice, the ACLJ. ACLJ.org. We're in a matching challenge campaign this month, by the way. That means any amount you donate
to. Do this tonight. It's not just us in here.
No, we've got a team of. I mean, there are 10 people in the room there, and analysts going on right now, and they will be. Your support of the ACLJ makes all this possible. So we want to encourage you to support the work of the ACLJ, and this month your gifts are doubled. And thank you for doing it tonight, even though you scared me with Arizona and Alabama, but that's okay. I was thinking, I had a senior moment there. Okay, it's late.
That's my bedtime, Jay.
No, I know that.
What's the
And I want everybody to know that we're not going to let this be stolen. The Constitution will prevail here. That's what this is really about, by the way.
Donald Trump won.
Yeah, no question about that. But let me tell you what's at risk. It's
why
more
do
than
you laugh, Louie?
No, it's
like,
more than
a question. There is no question.
No question.
There is no question. It's only if they steal
Well,
it.
we got news.
Okay, now we have. Okay, now it's 64. Is this correct, Will?
This is from Fox
Donald
News.
Trump
So
is winning
obviously Pennsylvania is counting because now it's 64%.
Yeah, it's just Philly
and the
that's
president is now up 664,000. So is
won.
Harry? Is there any way? It just went up 25,000 more.
Not mathematically, but one
stealing.
of the things that you cannot overestimate the willingness of the Democrats to pursue power at virtually any cost. So we still need to be vigilant with respect to Pennsylvania
And
in
now
particular.
we now have almost 80% of reporting in Wisconsin, and the president is up 120,000 votes. That's a lot of votes you got to move. Not as many as you have to move in Pennsylvania. He's won Pennsylvania. You know what's happened here. They cannot deal with this. So tomorrow We're going to be broadcasting live at noon. If something warrants it, we will break in earlier. If something warrants it late tonight.
Yeah, if they declare
They are saying
call
Joe
the
Biden
election.
is one Minnesota.
Okay.
So that was
something.
one that was in play. I mean, but see, they're giving it to Joe Biden with a small percent in, less percent in.
Less than 200,000.
Jordan, hold on, Will's got something.
Yeah, Joe Biden has he's up about 200,000 votes with 74% reporting, and they're giving him Minnesota,
But
they're not
Pennsylvania.
calling the other states for the president.
It's absurd.
We're 64% in. The president's up by not 200,000, but 664,000. So, okay. All right, so let's do this.
By the way, Donald Trump did not need to win Minnesota.
No.
That's a very
No.
little
That was not.
That would be like the end of the red
But
wave.
do you understand this too, also? Michigan and Wisconsin, it's over. Done. Game, set, match. Finished. So the president's going to win. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us tonight.
Thank you all for going out and voting. You obviously did your job.
Yep. Now
because
we do
this
ours.
was election day voting that got
And now we
President
do
Trump
our
over
job.
the top.
So, all right, folks, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank
God
you very
bless
much.
Have a good night.
See you.